Suho, once hailed as a sword god and humanity's fiercest prosecutor, now knelt in agony, his blood tainted with betrayal. Clutching his broken sword, he glared at the comrades who once fought by his side but now stood before him as traitors. They spoke with mocking calm. Alex scoffed at his stubbornness, while Endu, the cold-hearted mage, belittled his lack of talent. The memories of their shared battles flashed before his eyes. It was all a lie. Suho's heart burned with rage as he demanded answers. Isabella apologized weakly. They had no choice. The world didn't need heroes once the gates were closed. If humanity was safe, hunters would become threats. But Suho wouldn't bend. With poison ravaging his body, he rose for one final strike. His broken blade surged with unseen power, intangible sword. In a flash, he cut through them. Shock spread as healing no longer worked, and his weapon glowed with divine mastery. However, he succumbed to his injuries. Yet, fate wasn't done with him. Suho woke in the midst of a dungeon break, carried on a fireman's shoulder, chaos erupting around him. A goblin charged. Without hesitation, Suho grabbed an axe, hurled it. One clean hit, instant kill. The system stirred to life, silently marking Suho's awakening. A message appeared, an invitation to choose the class that would define his rebirth. Suho stared at the system window in front of him, instantly recognizing it. It was exactly the same as the moment he first awakened as a player. He was about to select the warrior class without hesitation, but stopped himself. Realizing he was choosing instinctively, he held back. Instead, Suho asked the system to delay the selection. Turning to the nearby fireman, Suho assured him that there was no need to worry. He could handle the enemies alone. They were just goblins after all. Without wasting time, Suho charged toward the goblins. The goblins, gripping their swords tightly, rushed at him as well. One goblin swung its sword toward Suho, but he ducked swiftly, dodging the attack. As the goblin turned around, it saw Suho had already struck down another goblin with an axe to the head. Wasting no time, Suho eliminated the first goblin too and took its sword. To him, goblins were only a threat to beginner players. They meant nothing to someone like him. He glanced at the goblins, channeling Levi's calm fury. Then, with Kirito-like speed, he sliced through them one by one, clearing the field in moments. After the battle, Suho looked at his sword and felt a lingering rage within. He realized he was more excited than he should have been and reminded himself not to act out of anger. At moments like these, he needed a cool head. He recognized that he had returned to the past for a reason. This was his chance to start over. The system acknowledged his victory and congratulated him, stating he had mastered some sword skills. Suho recognized the names of the basic swordsmanship skills. It had been a while since he last saw them. Though the goblin sword was simple, it was proving useful. Just then, the fireman approached Suho and asked if he was a player. Suho confirmed it. Now ready to decide, Suho told the system he would choose the healer class. The system asked him to confirm his choice, and Suho agreed. He walked over to the injured fireman and began treating his wounds, activating his healing light. The fireman's injuries started to heal. Suho asked how he felt, and the fireman, surprised, said the pain was gone. Suho acknowledged that he was now officially a healer. The system then offered Suho a small gift for using his first healing skill, allowing him to choose a weapon from its arsenal. Though he had chosen the healer class, he still needed a proper weapon. He requested the beginner's sword. The sword appeared in his hand. Looking at it, Suho declared his intent to conquer the gate. The fireman was shocked that Suho was going alone, warning him it was dangerous. But Suho was confident. He had something to gain from this mission. Walking away, Suho reflected on his recent experience. He had acquired swordsmanship skills even before selecting a class. Skills gained through talent could be used freely, regardless of the class. Class-specific skills would automatically evolve as his level increased. He recalled Isabella's healing light, which had also started as a basic skill. If only he had been able to heal himself in the past, the outcome could have been very different. This time, he would be both a swordsman and a healer, determined to prevent past mistakes. He had to grow stronger and level up faster than anyone else. He remembered the gate ahead was a premonition gate, unpredictable and deadly. In his previous life, it nearly killed him. But now, things were different. Though his skill level remained low, he still had the swordsmanship engraved in his mind. This was his chance to begin again. With firm resolve, Suho entered the gate and stepped into the green-red zone. Suho moved forward cautiously, observing his surroundings while thinking about the monsters that once rampaged outside the gate as if it were their domain. Now, those same monsters lay dead inside. It became clear they hadn't charged in. They had fled, escaping from something more terrifying. That's when Suho saw the cause of their panic. Two hobgoblins stood ahead, the real reason behind the goblins' retreat and the naming of the gate as green-red. One was a level 10, the other level 12. One of the hobgoblins dropped its prey to the ground and pulled out its sword, preparing for combat. Suho realized these monsters weren't targeting goblins anymore. They were aiming for him. Unlike regular goblins, hobgoblins had red skin, larger bodies, and stronger muscles. But in the end, they were still just goblins. The first hobgoblin charged at Suho with its sword. Suho instantly drew his own and drove it straight into the beast. The second hobgoblin responded with a swift strike. but Suho dodged easily, noting that his current level wasn't high enough to cut through its tough skin. Without hesitation, Suho closed in and thrust his sword directly into the hobgoblin's eye. He acknowledged that such a feat wouldn't be possible if the level gap or the monster's abilities were too great. But a hobgoblin? That was manageable. He then slashed its throat, ending the fight. Suho muttered that he'd killed it out of instinct and told himself to be more cautious next time. Until he found another weapon, he would make use of this one. The remaining hobgoblin glared at Suho with rage and charged forward. Suho began dodging its strikes effortlessly while considering that repeating the same action enough times could unlock a skill. Just then, the system notified him. He had mastered dodge. Energized, Suho aimed for the next step, parry. As he began executing parries, he reflected on the rich history of the technique and its importance in combat. The system responded again. Suho had now mastered parry. He noted how lucky he was to acquire it before his opponent tired. With no hesitation, Suho sliced through the hobgoblin's throat, bringing it down. Now with both enemies defeated, Suho looked ahead. It was time to seek out the remaining enemies and start earning experience points in earnest. Outside the gate in the real world, a group of men stood watching, frustration on their faces. One of them questioned who dared to enter a gate without permission and wondered what faction he belonged to. Another declared he'd deal with the intruder once he returned. If he even made it out alive, it would become a legend. A third man turned to the fireman and asked who the intruder was. The fireman explained everything. Hearing that, the man expressed disbelief. A beginner player had entered the gate. The fireman confirmed it. Judging by his words, Suho had only just become a player. Yet he had taken down a group of goblins alone, healed the fireman's wounds, and then entered the gate stating there was something in it for him. Shocked, the man remarked that they hadn't even arrived late, and yet Suho had already handled all the goblins. And not just that, he was a healer. The entire situation seemed completely absurd. Outside the gate, a man stood observing the situation closely. Considering that all the monsters encountered so far were goblins, the gate didn't seem too difficult. Yet it was hard to believe that a healer could conquer it alone. The idea of someone eliminating so many goblins without receiving even a scratch seemed unbelievable. He assumed the healer had entered without thinking things through. After all, what kind of healer would be reckless enough to enter a gate alone? But even with that doubt, he couldn't help but consider the outcome. If the healer actually managed to clear the gate, it would be extraordinary. He quickly turned to his companion, instructing him to report any changes in the gate immediately and to notify him the moment anyone came out. The companion acknowledged the order. With firm resolve, the man thought to himself, if that healer really clears the gate, then no matter what, they must recruit him. Inside the gate, Suho was in the middle of intense combat, slashing through a group of hobgoblins with his sword. His strikes were clean and powerful, slicing through their throats one after another. One hobgoblin attempted to pick up a fallen weapon from the ground, but Suho struck its hand with a swift kick. The creature froze in fear as it looked up at him. Suho decided to let it flee, hoping it would bring more of its kind. The hobgoblin turned and ran, just as Suho had intended, and he welcomed the idea of facing more opponents. With a moment of calm, Suho glanced at his system window. He considered managing his stats while waiting for the next wave. Instead of focusing on a single attribute, he chose to raise all stats evenly. The bonuses he had received and the large number of monsters he had defeated made leveling up easy. By now, he had already acquired most of the basic skills. Turning toward the hobgoblin's corpses, Suho examined one of the bodies and pulled out a magic stone. He hadn't expected to find one, but fortunately, it was there. Though it wasn't large, the D-grade stone could be sold for 50,000 won. In the past, he wouldn't have bothered with something so small, but money was tight, and now even the smallest gain mattered. He considered whether he should search more thoroughly. After gathering all the magic stones from the bodies, Suho estimated the total value. Selling everything would earn him a decent profit. Just then, the sound of approaching footsteps reached his ears. He knew the enemies had arrived. If he defeated them as well, it was likely the boss would appear next. Soon, a group of hobgoblins emerged. By Suho's count, there were around 30 of them. They would serve as valuable experience before the main challenge began. Suho stood ready as the hobgoblins growled in rage and charged toward him together. He leapt high into the air and began cutting them down in a single sweeping motion. As the last of them fell, a notification marked another level up. Looking at the remaining enemies, Suho realized there were still plenty left. Without hesitation, he began clearing them quickly with efficient strikes. In the midst of battle, he suddenly noticed movement to the side. The boss had arrived. A level 20 hobgoblin stood before him. Suho welcomed its appearance with a confident smile, ready for the final fight. The chief hobgoblin launched a sudden attack on Suho with his weapon, but Suho swiftly dodged the strike. Before he could regain his stance, another hobgoblin attacked from behind. Suho blocked it with his sword and then, without hesitation, eliminated the smaller hobgoblins around him, clearing the space for his real fight. Suddenly, the system warned Suho. The chief hobgoblin had activated the skill Fear. Suho's muscles stiffened as the status took effect. He realized that Fear was a mental-type skill that grew more dangerous with higher levels and stats. Suho hadn't expected such a skill in a low-level gate, but this was a boss monster after all. Without any skill or item to resist mental effects, he couldn't counter it normally. Still clutching his sword, Suho found a way. To shock his body out of fear, he inflicted a sharp cut on his own arm. Blood began to flow, and the system confirmed that he had broken free from the state of fear. Regaining control, Suho struck the enemy's weapon and quickly slashed through the surrounding hobgoblins. The system notified him that all hobgoblins in the green-red zone had been eliminated. He then activated his healing ability, Healing Light, and the system confirmed the designated area had been healed. Now, with only the chief hobgoblin left, Suho prepared for the final fight. As the battle began, Suho quickly assessed the situation. Due to their level difference, his attacks weren't doing significant damage, but the hits were adding up. Targeting an opening, Suho drove his sword deep into the boss's leg and focused on exploiting the injured areas for a fatal blow. The system then announced that the boss had once again used fear, but Suho remained unaffected. Having already overcome that status once, he was immune to it now. Unfazed, he unleashed a series of powerful strikes. As the final blow landed, the chief hobgoblin collapsed to the ground. Suho walked over and sat beside the defeated boss. He placed his hand on the creature's head and used Healing Light. The system windows appeared, congratulating him. His skills had upgraded significantly. Suho used Healing Light again, and this time, the system declared that his presence had reached an overwhelming level. Strong enough to suppress even a boss monster. He had mastered the skill Intimidation. Realizing he had now learned everything possible from this battle, Suho looked at the chief hobgoblin. Declaring the end of its role, Suho drew his sword once more and sliced the boss's throat cleanly. After Suho decapitated the chief hobgoblin, the system immediately acknowledged his victory. It congratulated him for mastering decapitation and announced that he had conquered the gate. Suho was declared the MVP and awarded additional experience along with 1 bonus stat. His level increased to 10, causing all his stats to rise by 1 and granting him another bonus stat. Recognizing his potential, the system rewarded him with 5 additional bonus stats, aiming to make him even stronger. Along with these stat boosts, Suho acquired 2 new skills, Healing Light and Cure. Seeing these rewards, Suho felt a sense of relief. He realized that he no longer needed to fear being debuffed. If he continued to level up and improve his skills, he believed he would eventually be able to cure even 10,000 poisons. With everything he needed now in his possession, he decided it was time to reunite with some familiar faces. With this in mind, he began walking toward the gate. On the other side, in the real world, the crowd noticed the gate trembling. They wondered if it had been conquered. Just then, Suho emerged from the gate, surprising everyone. The onlookers were shocked to see someone exit alone. They couldn't believe he had conquered the gate by himself. Descending from the gate, Suho walked toward team leader Jung Chulman and extended his hand in greeting. Jung Chulman, confused, didn't know how to respond. Later that evening, inside the Hunter Association building, Suho and Jung Chulman sat face to face. Jung Chulman recalled the earlier moment when Suho greeted him and introduced himself. In return, Jung Chulman had also introduced himself as part of the Gate Management Division of the South Korean Hunter Association and asked Suho if he had any business with him. Suho had replied that they could discuss the details later at the association, as he was planning to apply for a hunter's license. This response had left Jung Chulman stunned. Back in the present, Jung Chulman thought over the situation. It wasn't a license renewal, meaning Suho was an unregistered hunter, a newly awakened player. Considering the healer class was usually the weakest among the 4 classes, it was hard to believe he had conquered the gate alone. But based on the results, his performance seemed more like that of a warrior than a healer. Suho then asked if there was an issue with the results. Jung Chulman replied casually and confirmed Suho's name. He followed up by asking about Suho's background. Suho shared that he was a college dropout. When asked if he was unemployed, he simply admitted he hadn't done well in college. Jung Chulman wondered if Suho had studied medicine, but Suho revealed that he had majored in physical education. This revelation surprised Jung Chulman, as most physical education students would typically choose to be warriors or archers. He asked why Suho had chosen to be a healer. Suho, smiling, explained that he hated getting hurt. Acknowledging Suho's incredible solo victory, Jung Chulman asked him to describe the process. Suho explained that there wasn't any complex strategy. He had entered the gate, encountered a hobgoblin, and killed it just to survive. Suho then placed all the magic crystals he had collected on the table, explaining they were obtained from the hobgoblins, including the chief. Since he didn't know their value, he offered to leave them in Jung Chulman's care for processing. Jung Chulman agreed and took the crystals to inspect them. After examining them, he asked Suho if he truly intended to become a hunter. Suho confirmed without hesitation. He had made that decision the moment he awakened as a player. Jung Chulman praised his decision, but felt it was quite impulsive and asked if there was a reason behind it. Suho reflected deeply. He didn't know the exact reason, acknowledging that people became hunters for various motivations. But in his case, he harbored a strong hatred for monsters and gates. He had lost his entire family due to a gate shock. Despite the danger, entering the gate alone had been an emotional choice. He wondered if killing monsters would ease his frustration. But even after defeating them, he still felt the weight in his heart. That was when he instinctively realized his purpose. He didn't want others to suffer like he had. He wanted to prevent people from losing their loved ones to monsters. That realization gave him a mission, to ensure everyone's safety. He wanted to become a hunter of the South Korean Hunter Association. Jung was stunned by his decision and remained silent for a moment, then softly admitted that he was happy to hear it, but asked if Suho was sure. He reminded Suho that being part of the SKHA meant serving as a civil servant hunter, where the pay was significantly lower than what private guild hunters earned. Suho acknowledged this fact and explained that his priority wasn't money. What he wanted was free access to various gates, priority in conquering them, and the strict enforcement of punishment for player crimes. Hearing this, Jung grew concerned and asked what he truly meant. Suho clarified that he wanted to work in the field, especially in gate conquests. Jung was taken aback and questioned whether such a thing was even possible. In his thoughts, he reflected on the system. Though SKHA held priority rights for various gates, they usually auctioned them off to private guilds. The reason was simple. There was no justification to risk one's life for gate raids with such a low salary. While people often claim to choose this path out of altruism, most civil servant hunters prefer the job for its stability and avoided entering gates altogether. However, Suho was different, someone who actually wanted to fight in the field and prioritize public safety. To Jung, Suho seemed like the ideal civil servant hunter, a true patriot, and he couldn't help but feel deeply impressed. The overwhelming joy made him feel dizzy. Noticing his condition, Suho asked if he was all right. Jung smiled and confirmed he was fine. He then mentioned it had been a long time since he'd met someone like Suho and promised to handle the documentation. He explained the process. Aptitude test, written exam, and practical exam were all required to qualify. But Suho was confused, so Jung elaborated further, informing him that registration had already closed and the exam was scheduled for the next day. Still, Jung offered to register Suho additionally. Suho, delighted, asked if that would be all right. Jung confirmed it was allowed under the existing rules, especially since Suho had conquered a gate on his own. With approval from higher-ups and Jung's recommendation based on Suho's talents, the registration could be arranged. However, Jung warned him that preparing for both the written and practical exams in just one day would be tough. While he had no doubts about Suho's physical abilities due to his field performance, the written test still worried him slightly. As Jung spoke, energized by the discussion, he placed his hand on the table. Suho confidently asked him to proceed with the registration. Jung appeared momentarily puzzled, but Suho explained his reasoning. Taking the exam once for experience seemed worthwhile, and if he failed, he could always try again. He asked if he would be taking all the exams the next day. Jung admired his bravery and informed him that the results of the aptitude test could be checked today. Suho thanked him with a smile but mentioned he didn't have the registration fee. He asked if Jung could handle the payment using the magic crystals. Jung stood up, a little troubled, but agreed to take care of it while checking Suho's aptitude test. Suho, in his mind, thought of the only person he could truly trust. Brother Chulmin. Jung picked up one of the magic stones and examined it carefully. Suho, smiling warmly, thanked him again. Later in the evening, Suho was seen eating a burger. Jung approached and informed him that all aptitude tests had been completed and the money from the magic stone had been deposited. He asked Suho to confirm it. As Suho checked his phone, surprised by the amount, Jung explained that civil servant hunters received special tax exemption benefits for magic crystals. Suho was thrilled to know it was duty-free and found it amazing. While Jung was eating, Suho asked for one more favor. Though slightly troubled, Jung asked what it was. Suho had heard that the association had a library with workbooks and reference materials for the test. Since the test was the next day and it was already late, he wanted to cram. He asked for permission to prepare there. Jung, initially confused, then smiled brightly and wholeheartedly agreed. Suho expressed his gratitude and Jung guided him to the library. He told Suho that an employee card wasn't necessary when leaving and encouraged him to study freely. He wished him luck for the test before departing. As Jung walked away, Suho watched him go and reflected on how Chulmin hadn't changed. He was still the same kind, trustworthy brother. In Suho's thoughts, he even believed Jung would become the president of the association someday. However, Suho admitted it was difficult pretending he knew nothing. Acting overly informed would raise suspicions. Now, it was time to find a particular thing. Entering the library, he reminded himself that while he could recall major future events, he couldn't remember every little detail. That's why obtaining a certain skill would be useful. His eyes caught sight of an unusually large book on one of the shelves. Curious, he picked it up and began reading. As he searched for information, a strange sentence appeared. The book even had unique instructions on how to use it. It was clearly from another world, filled with mysterious drawings. Suho placed the book on his head, but nothing happened, leaving him puzzled and frustrated. He wondered why it wasn't working, despite being told that this was the only way to activate it. Then, a calm silence took over, and suddenly, a message appeared on the system window. The Library of Memories expressed interest in his story and extended an invitation. Light burst from the book, its pages separating and swirling in the air. A massive tree appeared in front of Suho, surrounded by a staircase that stretched upward. Another message flashed across the window. Welcome to the Library of Memories. Then it's revealed that the Library of Memories allows the user to remember everything they've ever seen or heard, even painful or traumatic experiences. Normally, the human brain copes through forgetting, but once this skill is obtained, the user becomes cursed with perfect memory. The original holder of this skill was the manager of the Hexagon Guild, a former employee of the Korean Hunter Association. While studying in a library and preparing for a career change, she accidentally gained this skill by using the book as a pillow, simply because sleeping face down felt uncomfortable. Suho reflects on how she was lucky to gain the skill. He also acknowledges that it was thanks to her he learned about this ability, and he intends to treat her to a meal someday. The system window then asks Suho if he wants to donate his story to the Library of Memories. Suho contemplates the power of this skill, how it could help him recover all of his memories. Since memories fade and become distorted over time, he decides it's essential to acquire the skill to preserve every detail with accuracy. A message appears on the system window, confirming that his story has been accepted. A strong wind begins to blow around him, and the system window displays a new message stating that the Library of Memories is now accessing and documenting his memories. Suho begins to float in the air, surrounded by glowing writing. A diagram forms over the book. Then, another message appears on the system window, declaring that the Library of Memories is now open. It stores all his seen and heard memories and allows him to access them anytime. It also recommends essential information to the user. Suho looks at his hand, sensing that the recording process feels strange, possibly because the space is illusionary. Now that he's acquired the skill, he decides to test it. He closes his eyes and returns to a past battle. There, he sees himself gravely injured. Rage builds up within him as he experiences the raw emotions of that moment, confirming the power of the Library of Memories. In front of him stand the people who betrayed him. He recognizes them as selfish traitors who delayed the closing of the gate just to survive. He vows never to forget them. Suho's spirit starts floating among many system windows. He feels disturbed by the memory and regrets not thinking of something else instead. Suddenly, one system window shows a surprising message offering him a chance to become stronger as the first to reach the realm of the transcendent. The system is rebooting for player An Suho. Suho is stunned as everything around him returns to normal. He wonders if the system actually sent him back in time. He remembers having reached the unity of the divine sword and acquiring the first SS grade skill. But now, as the first to reach transcendence, he's being offered another chance, something unheard of. He realizes this return to the past might not be a coincidence. In the next scene, Suho arrives at a location in a taxi. As he gets out, he reflects on the importance of his return to the past. He now has the chance to stop the tragedies that affected him and suppress the unpredictable gates that caused massive casualties. He resolves to conquer the gates faster than before, knowing that time is precious. He soon reaches a massive building named Nexus. Standing before it, he notes that Nexus is the largest private hunter academy in the country. The scale impresses him, and he sees it as a place where he can earn a lot of money for the future. With determination, he steps inside. Inside the building, a smiling receptionist asks about his visit. Suho informs her that he wants to meet Director Kim Sue. The receptionist seems confused and asks if he has an appointment. He tells her that he doesn't, but has something important to discuss. She hesitates, but he requests that she simply pass along a message, that the solo conqueror of the Sindorum Station pre-catastrophe gate is here. The scene then transitions to the director's office. There, a composed woman introduces herself as Kim Sue, the director of Nexus Academy. Suho introduces himself as An Suho. Director Kim invites him to sit and acknowledges his feat at the Sindorum gate. She asks about his purpose at Nexus. Suho explains that he came to request a scholarship. The director is visibly surprised by his request. He confirms his intent and mentions that the hunter license test is scheduled for the next day. He plans to participate as well. Director Kim, still processing everything, asks how long it has been since his awakening. Suho replies that it happened today. This information shocks her even more. She checks her documents, stunned, and repeats the details. An unregistered hunter who awakened today intends to take the license test tomorrow and already solo cleared a catastrophe-level gate. Suho confirms all of it. He explains that thanks to a connection in the Hunter Association, he was able to secure a spot for the exam. His goal is to claim the top position. Hearing his bold statement leaves the director even more astonished. Suho then states his condition. If he passes as the top candidate, he wants the status of a Nexus scholarship student, along with a full scholarship. Suho knew it wasn't easy for a complete rookie to reach the top. But he wasn't a rookie. He was a veteran who had conquered countless gates. Whether others believed it or not, the choice was theirs. Director Kim acknowledged his incredible feat of single-handedly clearing an unprecedented gate. However, she reminded him that the hunter test was a completely different challenge, with an average passing rate below 20%. Suho made a bold statement. If he didn't place first, they could disregard him and the scholarship offer entirely. Intrigued, Director Kim asked why he had chosen Nexus over other prestigious academies like Hexagon or Prime. Suho answered plainly. Nexus, despite being the largest academy in the country, was currently in the most regrettable state. In recent years, it had failed to produce any top-ranking students, leading to a noticeable decline in enrollment. Silently, Director Kim admitted the truth of his words. The academy desperately needed results, but no student had shown remarkable growth. If Suho really passed as the top scorer, Nexus would benefit the most from the publicity. His offer in that sense was perfect. Still, she wondered what kind of person made such a confident proposal. Curious, she asked him how much money he was expecting from the scholarship. Suho responded by asking about the top student's reward. She explained it included a full refund of tuition fees, an additional 30 million won as a congratulatory bonus, and an option to join the Nexus Guild immediately. Suho nodded. That sounded appropriate for the country's largest academy. But then, with a smile, he added, 300 million won would be nice. The amount shocked Director Kim, but Suho continued, stating that considering the benefits tied to being the top student and the size of the academy, the figure was reasonable. For Nexus, 300 million wasn't much. Internally, Director Kim couldn't deny he was just stating facts. Reluctantly, she agreed. If he topped the test, she would pay him the 300 million won. Later, Suho explored the campus. The more he walked around, the more he realized how massive the academy was, even bigger than an amusement park. Once enrolled, he knew he wouldn't lack anything. The staff member guiding Suho laughed, proudly pointing out that Nexus was the largest academy in South Korea. Suho noticed the guide looked tired and assumed they had been woken up just to assist him. Feeling a little guilty, Suho thanked him for the late-night tour. The guide smiled, saying it was the least he could do for such an important guest. Then, Suho noticed someone training alone on the playground. Curious, he asked if that person was a student. The guide nodded. That student trained at this hour every day. He was the most dedicated student in the academy. Suho was surprised. The student's name was Daehan. The guide called out, reminding Daehan to take care of his body as well. Daehan responded with a smile, saying he had to work harder since he was already in his third year. Suho recognized him immediately. In his previous life, he had formed raid parties with Daehan. Back then, Daehan was the top tanker in the country, known for his unmatched mental strength and defense. It had been unfortunate when pure tankers lost relevance over time. But now, seeing Daehan wielding an axe instead of a shield, it was clear he hadn't discovered his true potential yet. This was the perfect chance for Suho to lay the groundwork and later bring Daehan into the Great Hunter Association. The guide introduced Suho and Daehan to each other. They exchanged greetings. Suho asked if Daehan planned to use the battle axe as his main weapon. Daehan confirmed it. Suho then inquired why he had chosen that weapon. Daehan explained that since he aimed to be a melee fighter, the instructors had recommended it, citing its compatibility with his physique. The guide added that nothing matched the destructive power of a battle axe. Suho asked if Daehan had only trained with the axe. Daehan admitted he had. As a slow learner, he thought experimenting with different weapons would take too long. It had taken him 2 years just to become proficient with the battle axe, though he still didn't feel particularly good at it. Suho, analyzing silently, knew the real issue. The axe didn't suit Daehan's natural aptitude. It wasn't perseverance. It was misdirection. If his proficiency hadn't improved early on, he should have switched weapons. It was surprising that the country's top academy overlooked such things. Suho suggested a different approach. Players would receive stat adjustments anyway, so using a weapon that felt right was more important. With the skill correction effect, proficiency would increase faster, but actual combat performance depended on knowledge and experience. In Daehan's case, the battle axe was clearly a poor fit. Though it delivered powerful strikes, its long cooldowns left users vulnerable. And given Daehan's large frame, it was difficult to shield him effectively. Hearing this, Daehan was shocked. He had trained with the axe for 3 years. Suho acknowledged his perseverance but suggested that Daehan's true potential lay in tanking. He advised him to equip a kite shield on his left arm and a one-handed bludgeon in his right. That change would drastically improve his practical performance. Daehan hesitated, unsure about switching roles so close to the exam. The test was the very next day. Suho asked him to consider the core of any raid party. While many assumed it was the mage, the real core was always the tank. The tank's role was to draw enemy attention while shielding allies. So instead of only carrying a shield, a tank needed a secondary weapon for crowd control. Suho's explanation finally made sense to Daehan. Energized by the advice, Daehan decided to give it a try. Suho was glad he wasn't discouraged and appreciated his quick, logical decision-making. Suho wished him good luck. Daehan thanked him and walked off. The guide then explained that Director Kim had asked him to give Suho a tour, so he had introduced him as a guest. But now, he was curious. Was Suho actually an instructor? He seemed to know a lot about combat and contracts. Suho replied that he wasn't an instructor. Internally, he realized it might look suspicious for someone without a license to know this much. So he clarified that he was more of a stakeholder. The guide nodded, then mentioned that the contract must be ready now. He had just received a call. It was time to return to the director's office. The next day arrived, the day of the hunter test. The area in front of the association was filled with examinees, already with their swords aiming to earn their hunter licenses. Everyone had trained hard for this moment, refining their skills and reaching peak condition. And yet, the man of the hour, Suho, the one who had conquered a gate alone, was in his worst condition. Suho finished his test and walked out, thinking that although the test was conducted due to concerns about possible doping, such measures didn't mean much. Those who used drugs usually didn't consume actual drugs but skill buffs. The test taker's magic level was at most 5, which was a magic wavelength no one at level 5 could naturally possess. Not just that one woman, but quite a few people had been buffed. At that moment, the system notified Suho that his sense of distinguishing magic was far more sensitive than others. He had mastered magic detection. With magic detection, Suho found it much easier to identify abnormalities. Despite the time passed, the issue of skill buff doping hadn't yet surfaced officially, but there were already many cheaters. He realized he needed to sort this out once and for all. Suho glanced at Jung and thought how lucky it was to have someone clean here. Entering the hall where other candidates discussed their tests, Suho felt as if he had unintentionally become a cheater himself. Jung approached Suho and asked how his test went. Suho replied that he thought he could pass but was curious why Jung was there. Jung explained he was there to assist since the association was always short on staff. He added that he had heard this written test was the hardest ever, but Suho's confidence was impressive. Suho said he believed he had solved it and asked if he could inquire about something. Jung agreed, as long as it wasn't related to the test. Suho mentioned that while it wasn't completely irrelevant, he noticed earlier that no buff checks were conducted during the test and wanted to know why. Jung asked for clarification about buff checks. Suho explained that while the association conducted urine and blood tests to prevent doping and confiscated belongings to stop cheating with items, they seemed not to specifically check for cheating using skills. He suggested that magic detection would make spotting cheaters easier. Jung thanked him and promised to check before the practical test. Suho said he would then prepare for the practical test. Before Suho left, Jung asked him to wait and expressed his personal desire to see Suho succeed and work together, hoping for a good result on the practical exam. Suho thanked him. 30 minutes later, at the practical test venue, the announcer informed everyone that the test was postponed by 2 hours due to dive capsule issues. Candidates were asked to have lunch in the cafeteria and wait in the lounge or training area. Suho suspected the capsule problem was just an excuse. He thought perhaps Chulman was already taking measures against cheating with buffs, acting quickly as expected. With 1,200 candidates and a passing rate below 10%, identifying cheaters could lower that rate to about 7%. Those who passed would be top-notch talents, so Suho decided to keep an eye out for anyone useful among them. Suddenly, Suho heard voices nearby. One man challenged another to a match. The second man reacted aggressively, telling the first to leave and not pick a fight. The first man clarified he didn't want a fight, just a spar, and teased the other about being scared that his skills would be revealed. The second man shoved him away, calling him names and demanding he stay out of his way. The first man moved to attack with a wooden sword, asking what would happen if he struck first. Suho stepped in, blocking the wooden sword with his own, causing the attacker to step back. The second man was shocked and asked if Suho had lost his mind. Suho assured him he would handle the attacker and told him to stay calm. The second man asked who Suho was and if he was an officer. Suho explained he was just another test taker and warned that getting involved with the attacker would lead to trouble, so it was better to leave it to him. The first man questioned why Suho was interfering. Suho smiled and introduced himself, suggesting that since the man wanted a sparring partner, he could be that partner. The attacker refused, saying he wouldn't spar with a weak person like Suho. Suho was surprised by the word weak. The attacker claimed Suho just got lucky earlier and told him not to get cocky, ordering him to leave. Suho challenged him, asking if he was scared. The attacker got angry and asked what Suho meant. Suho proposed they test if it was really luck, pointing out that the attacker seemed too scared to try. The attacker accepted the challenge, calling Suho names and saying he was bored of cowardly idiots around him. Suho acknowledged the acceptance and suggested they get the supervisor's approval to spar in the designated arena. Both men entered the sparring arena and faced each other, attracting the attention of many students. The referee reminded them that only training weapons provided by the association were allowed and warned he would stop the match if it got too heated. The match began as the attacker rushed forward to strike. Suho blocked the attack with his wooden sword. The attacker jumped and swung his sword downward, but Suho easily dodged. The attacker was surprised and angry, threatening to tear Suho's mouth apart. Suho stomped on the attacker's wooden sword and mocked his weakness, calling him completely weak. This insult made the attacker furious. Park Yang, the attacker, was introduced as a mad swordsman with an insatiable thirst for power. Known for challenging skilled fighters whenever the opportunity arose, his obsession with strength had turned him into a relentless hunter-killer. Suho, recognizing him, recalled how impressive Park Yang's skills were in their past encounter. Seeing him now as part of the same cohort surprised Suho, who immediately saw the need to prevent him from repeating past mistakes. Without warning, Suho landed a powerful kick, sending Yang flying. Watching him crash to the ground, Suho mocked his earlier arrogance. Yang, now furious, questioned Suho's overwhelming strength. Calmly, Suho warned him that rushing wouldn't help, hinting that Yang had never faced someone as strong as a level 10 before. His past opponents likely peaked at level 5. Standing up with a grin, Yang acknowledged Suho's relaxed demeanor and vowed to go all out. Suho accepted the challenge. Yang launched a flurry of attacks, each one dodged effortlessly by Suho using just one hand on his sword. The intensity of Yang's strikes had clearly increased, and Suho acknowledged the weight behind them. Provoked, Yang unleashed his signature technique, the Dragon Sword technique, with full force. A blinding light exploded from the clash, and Yang celebrated prematurely, convinced he had landed a decisive blow. But as the light faded, Suho stood unharmed, revealing he had blocked the attack. Shocked, Yang trembled, demanding to know how. Suho replied with a smirk, pointing out the attack's sluggishness. In truth, Yang had only used a basic version of the technique, not the perfected Dragon Sword technique. Without a hunter's license, mastering the original form was impossible. Yang, enraged by the humiliation, charged again. Suho continued dodging every strike with ease. At one point, he dropped into a crouched stance, luring Yang into a wild rush. As Yang declared the fight over, Suho delivered a powerful upward strike to his chin, knocking him out cold. Yang collapsed, defeated and stunned, unable to comprehend what had happened. Suho reiterated how slow the attacks had been. Though furious, Yang could only lie on the ground, muttering Suho's name repeatedly. Suho observed this and realized that Yang's obsession would keep him fixated on defeating Suho, ignoring everyone else for the time being. With this distraction out of the way, Suho expected a quieter testing center. Meanwhile, the supervisors who had been watching were left speechless. Snapping them out of their shock, Suho called for attention and casually reported that he had accidentally knocked Yang out, requesting they take care of him. The supervisor acknowledged the situation, and Suho thanked him. In the next scene, Suho was seated inside a room filled with machines. Looking around, he noticed more skilled personnel than before, likely doping inspectors posing as technicians. As the room filled with noise, Suho grew irritated, wishing they would all leave. A technician approached and instructed him to lie down. Suho complied. The technician explained the emergency button function in case of strange sensations during the dive process. Suho confirmed he understood. The system powered up and Suho lay down, cables connecting both sides of his head. A system window displayed the activation of the Hunter Practical Test Program. Suho's consciousness was linked, and the dive progress steadily increased. 5%, 40%, 77%, until finally reaching 100%. The connection was complete, and the healer practical test scenario was launched. Suho opened his eyes in a different world. He immediately sensed the difficulty of the exam, especially given the low pass rate for healers. Ahead of him, he saw injured individuals calling for help and others trapped under debris, including one girl desperately trying to lift a massive stone. Observing the chaotic scene, Suho criticized the Hunter Association for their lack of restraint in setting such an extreme scenario. The experience was already feeling traumatic. As the girl struggled in tears, Suho lifted his shirt and prepared to act, knowing this was why healers were so expensive. The real test was about to begin. In the next scene, it's revealed that the practical test is considered the core of the Hunter exam. The main objective is to demonstrate how well a player fits their chosen class. Each year, the simulation scenarios within the program change, and the criteria for passing vary accordingly. These tests usually range from one-on-one battles to facing multiple enemies alone. A player's score depends on how long they survive and how many enemies they defeat. However, the healer exam is slightly different. Unlike offensive classes, the amount and characteristics of healing power don't carry much weight. Although strong healing abilities are important, the primary virtue expected from a healer is sacrifice. Those who risk their own lives to save others are awarded higher scores. Observing the approaching monsters, Suho begins to reflect. In this test, he must die while protecting the patient. The problem is that his status window specs are still intact. As he walks toward the monsters, he notices a sword lying nearby. Looking at it, he realizes he'll need to endure a long beating before dying, unlike other players. Picking up the sword, he questions the idea of letting himself be beaten to death again. To him, dying once was already enough. Meanwhile, others nearby scream while looking at the monsters calling for help. Suho, however, knows those screams are just illusions. There are only dead bodies surrounding him in reality. He approaches a shocked girl and checks if she's okay. The girl, trembling, warns that the monsters will return and they must run. Suho understands that the mission is to protect her until the end. Offering comfort, he assures her of the rescue team's arrival and promises to protect her until then. Standing tall, he prepares to face the incoming monsters. Back in the observation room, players begin exiting the simulation machines one by one. Suho's time also ends, and his machine opens. He steps out, thinking he could have done more. A woman thanks him for his effort and instructs him to collect his belongings and head home. He nods and thanks her in return. The woman then approaches another machine, examining its screen, which shows the details of an examinee. Kang Jin Young, Archer class, with a recorded time of 9 minutes and 4 seconds. She notes how this season's scores are particularly low due to the test's difficulty. Curious, she asks Director Shin how long Suho was inside the simulation. He replies, 30 minutes. Shocked, she repeats the number in disbelief, realizing it wasn't 15 but a full 30 minutes. Director Shin confirms it again. Rushing to Suho's machine, she confirms the display herself. 30 minutes. Surprised, she wonders if Suho is a warrior. Director Shin corrects her, saying he's a healer. Not believing it, the woman accuses him of lying. But Shin points to the sword Suho was holding, urging her to look closer. Together, they observe the simulation footage. Watching Suho's actions, the woman asks if he truly is a healer, amazed at his combat skills. She then questions if he'd be disqualified for not dying. Director Shin explains there's no reason to disqualify him. The test's purpose is for the healer to protect the patient until the end. She agrees, acknowledging the logic. Shin elaborates further. Suho is fulfilling all conditions without abandoning the patient. He fights while staying close and healing the patient periodically. Suho is risking his life to protect her. As long as all conditions are met, there's no reason for disqualification. Hearing this, the woman concludes that the top performer of this exam has already been decided. Meanwhile, Suho continues his fight inside the simulation. With incredible skill, he slices all the monsters into pieces in a single strike. Despite his victory, Suho thinks it's not enough and he needs to be faster. More monsters appear, and he eliminates them one by one, showing relentless determination. Eventually, he finishes them all. A system window appears with a message. Your level of understanding of the skill footplay is very high. Congratulations, you have mastered footplay, B. Suho reads the message, realizing that even though this is a virtual reality, as long as it's based on Earth, the system can still track his movements. The system acknowledges that he's controlling his body directly, allowing mastery of physical skills. Although experience gain is lower than physically overworking the body, it remains perfect for training. In addition to swordsmanship, he has acquired various skills, upgrading all sword techniques to A rank. Though there are no experience points or item rewards, the result is satisfying. If he manages to collect and raise all basic sword skills to A rank or higher, he could acquire a technique like Park Yong's Dragon Sword technique. Another system message appears. Great achievement. Your understanding of swordsmanship is higher than anyone else's. The system is impressed by your unique swordsmanship and has decided to fully acknowledge it. Would you like to register a new swordsmanship skill by integrating basic sword techniques and basic footplay? Upon registration, a new rank will be assigned and you can name it yourself. Reading this, Suho smiles with satisfaction. He has finally created his own technique, the Guardian Sword. Suho stood before the system window as a message appeared, asking if Guardian Sword was the correct name for the newly created swordsmanship skill. He confirmed it. Instantly, a new message followed, congratulating him for his supreme mastery and recognizing the creation of a new, unique swordsmanship skill. The system announced that he had created the Guardian Sword, S skill. This boosted the effects of all existing swordsmanship and footwork skills by 50%. As a reward for this great achievement, the system granted him 10 bonus stat points and expressed hope that he would continue down the path of the sword. A final message confirmed the granting of Sword Mastery S, a privilege reserved for those with profound understanding of swordsmanship. This lifted all restrictions on acquiring and using sword skills, enhanced all sword-related abilities by another 50%, and removed limitations on sword usage. Suho reflected silently. In his previous life, this level of mastery had taken over a decade to achieve. But now, with knowledge from the past, the process had become much faster. He acknowledged that his value had increased significantly. Turning his attention to the test, he recalled that the number of monsters was fixed and wondered just how much preparation had gone into the setup. With all his goals completed, only 2 options remained: die at the hands of the monsters or eliminate them all. Suddenly, a large group of monsters appeared around him. Without hesitation, Suho drew his sword. He had made up his mind. He would kill them all. Elsewhere, the examiners watching the live feed were stunned by his performance. They couldn't believe what they had witnessed. For the first time in the history of practical exams, someone had managed to defeat every monster. They marveled not only at his combat skills but also noted that he had healed the patient. One of them even remarked that there was no need to check the rankings for this test. The results were obvious. A few days later, the scene shifted to the headquarters of the Hexagon Guild. One confident member claimed that their student, Ki-yun, would surely be the top scorer this year. Another agreed, proud of the effort they had invested in training him. Just then, someone noticed a congratulatory letter. Upon reading it, confusion spread. The top scorer wasn't Ki-yun. The name An Suho left them all stunned. The atmosphere turned tense as someone questioned Ki-yun's whereabouts. At that moment, the guildmaster received a call and the scene transitioned again. Suho was now on a call with team leader Jung. The team leader apologized for the delayed congratulations due to being busy, but praised Suho for passing with the top score. He expressed his surprise at Suho's consistent performance. Suho humbly responded, attributing his success to the team leader, who quickly deflected the praise, insisting that Suho's abilities were solely responsible. He also mentioned that Suho's performance had helped uncover numerous cheaters involved in skill doping. This would lead to stricter regulations in future exams, which he considered a positive change. Then, the team leader cautiously brought up a question: whether Suho was still interested in joining the Great Hunter Association. Suho affirmed that although he might stay with the guild for a while, his ultimate goal was unchanged. He would definitely join the Great Hunter Association. The team leader appreciated his response and promised to contact him once the recruitment or test schedule was announced. Suho agreed with a smile. As they ended the call, the team leader reminded him to have lunch and take care of his health. Suho returned the same sentiment. After the call ended, the team leader glanced at something he held in his hand and quietly reminded himself to eat as well. Back with Suho, he paused after the call, sensing something off in the team leader's voice. He wondered if everything was okay. Just then, another call came in. Seeing the caller, Suho anticipated it. He picked up, introducing himself. The caller was Kim Sue, who congratulated him on his success and confirmed that payment had been made as per the contract. Suho acknowledged her efficiency, praising the large guild's professionalism. Kim Sue then made her offer, inviting Suho to join the Nexus Guild and promising better treatment than any other guild could offer. Suho, intrigued, asked how far they were willing to go. Kim Sue assured him that she would do everything possible to meet his expectations. As a scholarship student and top graduate, adjusting the contract terms would be simple. She even suggested meeting in person to finalize the details. Suho politely declined for the moment, mentioning personal plans for the day. He promised to check his schedule and follow up. However, he hinted that as a Nexus scholarship recipient, it would make more sense for him to join Nexus rather than another guild. Kim Sue was thrilled by his words. Her excitement was so obvious that nearby employees were visibly surprised. She urged him not to sign with anyone else in the meantime. Suho, amused by her enthusiasm, chuckled and agreed to meet soon. As the call ended, Suho smiled to himself, still hearing the echo of her excitement. At that moment, the taxi driver informed him that they had arrived. Suho thanked him and stepped out of the car. Now standing outside, Suho reflected on everything. He had passed the test, earned his license, and received the deposit. The next phase of his journey was clear. It was time to begin farming. With determination, he walked forward, ready for what lay ahead. At Lighthouse General Market, Suho checked his phone and reflected on how he had quickly gathered everything he needed. Now, all that remained was purchasing a weapon. With that goal in mind, he arrived outside a small, secluded shop. He had intentionally avoided busy stores, unsure if they'd carry what he was looking for. As he stood there, he wondered if this quiet place would hold the right weapon. Stepping inside, Suho greeted the shop owner, who asked what he was looking for. Suho explained that he had just become a hunter and needed a lightweight weapon. The shopkeeper pointed to a section with cheaper items. When Suho glanced at them, he noticed layers of dust and immediately understood. Most low-grade weapons lacked verified information, but that didn't mean all unverified weapons were useless. Some weapons needed a process of liberation before becoming true weapons. These special items typically emitted an aura, a call for recognition. However, in places like this, most players wouldn't recognize such a weapon. Suho picked up one of the weapons and activated his magic detection. A faint smile appeared on his face. He had found it. Carrying the weapon outside, Suho thought to himself that if the owner ever discovered the true value of the spear, he'd regret letting it go for so little. But for now, it was time to begin. Suho closed his eyes, focused, and started infusing the weapon with his magical power. The spear absorbed his energy at a rapid pace, draining him quickly. Realizing the strain, Suho stopped and dropped to the ground, exhausted. He acknowledged that had he pushed a little further, he might have fainted from the magic depletion. Awakening this weapon required a magic stat of at least 100. Though he couldn't wield it yet, he knew it would become a valuable asset in the future. He promised to level up quickly and awaken it soon. Meanwhile, inside the PBS building, reporter Jinwei received a call from Suho. Suho introduced himself and confirmed that he was the top candidate from the recent hunter test. He also revealed that he had single-handedly cleared the unprecedented gate incident at Sindorim Station. Jinwei was stunned by this revelation. He processed the information silently, realizing Suho had cleared a dangerous gate even before receiving his official hunter license. To him, Suho was nothing short of a monster. When Jinwei asked why Suho had contacted him directly, Suho explained that he had come across his blog while searching. He'd heard of Jinwei's background as a Golden Spoon kid, but respected his decision to pursue journalism out of personal passion. Suho stated he had many plans moving forward and would generate a lot of newsworthy content. He proposed that Jinwei become his exclusive reporter. Jinwei questioned whether Suho intended to keep a wealthy journalist as his subordinate. Internally, he dismissed Suho as just another eccentric person with delusions of grandeur. Despite understanding Suho's proposal, Jinwei expressed discomfort with the approach. He admitted to being hungry for exclusive scoops but had no intention of working under anyone. Suho clarified that he wasn't seeking a subordinate but a great partner. Jinwei responded bluntly, pointing out that Suho's attempt seemed like a trick to boost his value before joining a guild. Suho admitted it wasn't entirely false. He wasn't doing it to raise his value, but rather to gain fame. His goal was to become a civil servant. Jinwei was surprised and asked if Suho meant joining the Hunter Association. He found the idea of seeking fame to become a public servant hunter ridiculous. But Suho stood firm. He intended to join the Hunter Association and work in the field. This led Jinwei to question Suho's background. He wondered if Suho was one of those privileged kids treating work as a hobby. Suho explained that he was a gate orphan. That history drove his interest in public service and defined his life's purpose, conquering gates. As Jinwei glanced at his laptop, he questioned whether Suho was serious. There were too many oddballs these days to keep track of. But in the end, he figured it didn't really matter. Jinwei acknowledged Suho's perspective but declined the offer to become his exclusive reporter. He preferred to write the stories he chose. Suho, undeterred, suggested a bet. Jinwei asked what kind of bet. Suho said he wanted to earn Jinwei's trust by proving his strength as a hunter. He revealed his plan to conquer the Tower of Challenge alone that very day. Jinwei was shocked. The Tower of Challenge was considered impossible to clear, even with a party. Attempting it solo sounded insane, but Suho believed his actions would be enough to gain Jinwei's trust. And if he succeeded, he asked that Jinwei agree to become his exclusive and personal reporter. Suho reflects on a top-player broadcaster, a PBS reporter named Jinwei. Known for his pride and wealthy background, Jinwei built his fame as a reporter who never accepted requests. In Suho's previous life, they had collaborated many times due to Jinwei's exceptional reporting and his rare ability to sway public opinion. However, his overwhelming talent made him a threat in the eyes of others. Like a sharp thorn, Jinwei became entangled in factional conflicts, leading to his early retirement and eventual disappearance. Suho silently vows not to let Jinwei vanish like that again. On a call, Suho proposes a deal. If he succeeds in conquering the Tower of Challenge alone, Jinwei must become his exclusive and personal reporter. Though surprised, Jinwei agrees. If Suho really does clear the tower solo, he promises to support him with everything he has as a reporter. The call ends with Suho confidently stating that he's getting started. After the call, Jinwei grows irritated, feeling that Suho is driving him crazy. He ponders over Suho's unexpected request, confused by its suddenness. Although annoyed, he doesn't entirely dislike it. The proposal feels sincere, and Suho doesn't come off as a scammer. Frustrated yet intrigued, Jinwei admits to himself that he's really going crazy. He brushes it off, thinking it's a gamble with no downside. If true, great. If not, so be it. The scene shifts to the Tower of Challenge. Suho stands before the entrance, showing his hunter license to the gatekeeper. The man notices Suho is alone and warns him that while solo entry is allowed, it's risky. Based on Suho's license number, it appears he just passed his test. The gatekeeper advises forming a party since casualties are common, even on lower levels. But Suho prefers to go alone. The man accepts his decision, mentions the 70,000 won fee, and informs Suho to pay upon receiving the invoice. Suho thanks him. As he enters, the gatekeeper yells for him to be cautious and retreat if it gets too dangerous. Suho acknowledges the concern with a nod. Walking inside, Suho reflects on the Tower of Challenge, widely known as a training ground for players below level 20. It's a public gate maintained by the government, designed for self-development. Since his level reset, there's no better place for him to start. He opens the door and steps in. Instantly, the system announces his entry into the Tower of Challenge. It informs him that he can forfeit any time, and the moment he declares withdrawal, he'll be teleported back to the entrance. With that, Suho summons his sword as the system signals the beginning of the first floor challenge. A slime monster appears and attacks Suho. While fighting, Suho observes its large size and speed, which initially caught him off guard. Although it's a level 1 monster with nearly no damage output, getting entangled with it could be problematic. He decides to finish it quickly before it drags him around. Driving his sword into the slime, he destroys its core. He realizes the monster can multiply, an annoying trait. Split cores can regenerate into several weaker versions, and while there are limits, they still pose a risk. This regeneration is why party play is highly recommended in the tower, as monsters appear in groups on most floors. Suho begins eliminating the multiplying slimes. He jumps high, stabbing one slime midair, then throws his sword to kill another. As he falls, a slime lashes at him with its tentacles. Suho grabs the tentacle mid-fall, saving himself from hitting the ground. Holding on, he smirks, and uses the grip to launch himself up. Slashing through the tentacles with precision, he clears the remaining enemies. The system notifies him that he has conquered the first floor and asks if he wishes to proceed. Suho looks upward, determined. With 48 floors remaining, there's no time to rest. The system then signals the start of the second floor challenge. Suho reflects on the Tower of Challenge, recalling that the highest official record from his past life reached the 48th floor. Currently, the record stands at the 29th floor. Both were achieved through party play. The tower is typically challenged in groups, with the number of participants determining the difficulty. As the group size increases, the experience gain decreases, but it's safer to progress together. To aim for the highest records, the usual method involves forming a party of level 20 hunters. With these thoughts, Suho clears the 18th floor. Looking up, he considers that he doesn't really need to follow that standard method. Without hesitation, he accepts the challenge for the 19th floor, triggering the next stage of the tower. This floor is different from the previous ones. Instead of multiple enemies, it contains a single powerful monster. While this means it's strong, the advantage is clear. Defeating one enemy is enough to clear the stage. As soon as the monster appears, Suho strikes with his sword and defeats it in a single blow. The system announces the completion of the 19th floor and offers the option to proceed to the 20th. Suho chooses to wait, placing the challenge on hold. Approaching the monster's body, Suho observes an unusual trait of the 19th floor. Unlike other defeated monsters that disappear instantly, the red gain remains. This is a deliberate hint from the tower. There's something to be gained from it. Suho collects an item from its remains, recognizing that it cannot be used on its own but holds a specific purpose. Activating his magic detection ability, Suho locates a hidden space tied to the red gain. He discovers the red gain's hidden den, which turns out to be the subspace fortress of Fortress King Zhangpyeong. This subspace is unique compared to others formed using items. The key distinction is its ability to allow living beings to enter and exit freely. Inside, Suho finds himself in a place that resembles a cave. A glowing object appears before him, and the system notifies that the fortress's previous owner is dead. Suho is asked if he will take ownership. He accepts and grabs the glowing object, which begins to merge into his body. The system confirms that Suho has become the new owner of the subspace fortress and has mastered its functions. It is now permanently bound to him as a skill rather than an item. Immediately, the system explains that the fortress's form changes depending on the user's magical power. The space begins reconstructing itself. What was once a cave transforms into a well-furnished room. Impressed, Suho realizes the subspace is more advanced than he expected. Based on the expanded dimensions and system guidelines, the space appears to grow with his magical power and adapts to his preferences. He feels relieved that he managed to stop Jung Pyong-ho from obtaining this powerful ability. That smuggler once used this space to hide everything, from drugs and national treasures to kidnapped people. The memories of sleepless nights caused by those crimes resurface, filling Suho with disgust. But now that the fortress is in his control, such horrors won't repeat. By preventing the rise of Fortress King Jung Pyong-ho and securing a personal fortress, Suho feels he's achieved a major victory. With renewed determination, he prepares to move forward. Jinwei scrolled through his phone, reading an article with growing interest. He realized that for a while, many students would be drawn toward Nexus. Suho had once mentioned plans to join the Great Hunter Association, yet seeing such exclusive coverage hinted that Nexus was certain Suho would join them. Jinwei felt uncertain. Time would reveal the truth, but he couldn't help but wonder how many floors Suho had already conquered. At that moment, a system notification flashed. The 30th floor had been conquered. The Tower of Challenge record had been broken, and a new challenger was already on the 31st floor. The surrounding crowd was stunned. Whispers spread quickly. A new record, a party raid, or perhaps something even more astonishing. Shock intensified when the system confirmed the 31st floor had been cleared moments after the challenge began. Jinwei froze. If it really was Suho, then his assumptions had been wrong. Until now, he thought Suho's victories were all luck and flair. But if this was truly his doing, then Suho was someone Jinwei would be stuck competing with for a long time. Inside the Hunter Association, Director Kim heard the news and was visibly shaken. Young confirmed that Suho was breaking records in real time. Realizing Suho's worth, Director Kim decided they needed to offer something unimaginable to lure him to the association. She instructed her team to contact the president and office manager and head straight to the headquarters. Not long after, the system announced that Suho had started the 48th floor. Young, sitting alone, tried to process what was happening. Suho's rapid progress in the Tower of Challenge was unprecedented. If Suho genuinely intended to join the association, then they were witnessing a talent the world had never seen. Just then, Young received a call. It was the association's vice president. Curious, Young answered. The vice president asked about his location, and upon hearing that Young was near the tower in Pangyo, he seized the opportunity. He instructed Young to bring Suho back. Young responded enthusiastically, thinking he was being asked to recruit Suho, but the vice president quickly shut down that idea. All he wanted was for Suho to take a photo with the association president. With that, he ended the call, leaving Young stunned and disappointed. He thought bitterly about how people in power were the reason the public viewed them as corrupt and inefficient. In his opinion, only hunters should be chosen as association executives. Looking at the tower, Young began wondering what excuse he could use to bring Suho in. Inside the tower, Suho conquered the 48th floor, updating the Tower of Challenge record once again. Fatigue weighed on him, and he wondered when this ordeal would finally end. Constantly running was wearing him out, but a glance at his status window lifted his spirits. Reaching level 39 felt rewarding, and gaining 5 bonus stat points with every record broken was overwhelming in the best way. With full knowledge of the system, it felt like he was raising a secondary character in a game, an experience that was oddly fun. With stat distribution complete, he was ready to face the final floor. The 49th floor challenge began, and a crystal in front of Suho started to glow. From it emerged the final monster. Suho stood before the master of the tower, a level 49 tower dragon. Seeing the dragon, he acknowledged how unbalanced this opponent was. Even without pure blood traits, being a dragonborn made it terrifyingly powerful. It made Suho wonder if this floor was ever meant to be cleared. Despite the odds, Suho knew why he had come. He wasn't here to hesitate. With unwavering resolve, he gripped his sword and charged forward to take down the final boss. Suho advanced toward the dragon, preparing to strike. In response, the dragon launched its own attack, forcing Suho to leap high into the air to dodge. While mid-air, he quickly realized that despite its massive size, the dragon was incredibly fast. Suddenly, a dark aura began to seep from the dragon's claws, creating intense wind pressure that started pulling Suho toward its mouth. Just before he was pulled in, Suho grabbed hold of the dragon's jaws, hoisted himself above its head, and launched a powerful strike with his sword. The dragon let out a furious roar and thrashed its head violently, shaking Suho off and forcing him to retreat to a safer distance. Observing the beast, Suho noted that his attack hadn't even left a scratch. It was as if the strike had only irritated it. The dragon then slammed the ground with overwhelming force, causing massive cracks to spread across the floor. Suho quickly took cover behind a boulder, thinking how fortunate he was to have high stats. If his abilities were any lower, he wouldn't have survived that impact. He acknowledged that even though the dragon's level wasn't excessively high, its dragon traits made its body incredibly durable, rendering standard attacks ineffective. Realizing this, he decided to look for its weak spot, the reverse scale, which, if hit, could deal critical damage. Since the dragon wasn't at level 100, it was likely unable to completely hide the reverse scale. Scanning its body, Suho finally spotted the vulnerable point on the dragon's tail. Wasting no time, he dashed forward and delivered a fierce blow to the stone-like scale. The dragon reeled in pain, and the system announced that the tower dragon had become enraged after its weak spot was struck. Suho kept his sword embedded in the reverse scale, recognizing that the battle wouldn't end easily. The longer it dragged on, the more dangerous it would become. He needed to destroy the scale quickly. Channeling more strength, Suho pushed the blade deeper. Enraged, the dragon activated its fear-inducing power. Suho's body began to stiffen, and he entered a state of hallucination as the system confirmed he had succumbed to fear. In an attempt to resist, Suho activated his cure skill, but the system indicated that the high-level fear could not be cancelled. As the dragon shrieked in fury, it swung its tail violently toward the wall, ready to slam Suho against it. But just before impact, Suho activated the entrance to his subspace. In the next moment, the dragon's tail smashed against the wall with tremendous force. Suho entered the subspace through the entrance and immediately pulled out a healing potion to drink. The system confirmed the consumption of a purification potion, activating its effect. The state of fear and hallucinations were lifted. Relieved, Suho reflected on how only those he permitted could enter the subspace fortress. He had bought the purification potion from the general market just in case, though he hadn't expected to use it so soon. The battle was proving tougher than anticipated. Dragon fear didn't immediately grant resistance after being dispelled, and cure spells were ineffective. This meant he would need to repeatedly retreat into the subspace and rely on purification potions. But he knew this method wouldn't lead to victory. It was time to consider alternative strategies. He took out a few items and considered seeking help from the mad pulverization scholar. Just then, the system notified him that he had learned the basic combination formula through the skill book and summoned a combination jar. Suho understood that a combination recipe with an absolute formula would always succeed, even if it was a basic one. The items, often dismissed as junk, held hidden value the world had yet to recognize. The system then confirmed each item placed into the combination jar: the unknown thief's socks, the unknown minstrel's instrument, and the unknown cleaner's broom. The combining process began. Suho noted that if he weren't a pulverization scholar, he would never have discovered this in his lifetime. The process concluded successfully. The system announced that a rare treasure had been created from the lowest level formula. It was a ring named First Mumu. The system awarded him 10 bonus stats for accomplishing a great achievement. Suho realized that successfully combining a first-ever item granted bonus stats. His intention behind combining the first-ever S+ grade item was solely to obtain those stats. Once again, he recognized the immense privileges of being a regressor. Items could be categorized in various ways, but some people divided them into first and not the first. The first items were those appearing for the first time in the world and were often S grade. The first Mumu was rated S+, and the plus sign indicated it was a growth-type item influenced by the wearer or had a set effect. In this case, it was growth-based. He wore the ring, and the system bound it to him. Suho reflected that this was his first time equipping the S+ Mumu. In his previous life, he had failed to obtain it because the mad pulverization scholar had already discovered it. That scholar's discovery had led to the Mumu formula becoming public, but in this life, Suho managed to claim it first. With the bonus stats in hand, he decided it was time to awaken a certain item. Opening his status window, he allocated 4 points into his magic stat. This brought the total to 100. The system congratulated him, confirming that his magic stat had leveled up to red. It was the first time he had reached a red stat while still below level 50, proving that his growth this time was unusually fast. Initially, he had expected it would take a long time to reach purple, but at this pace it seemed achievable in no time. The color system upgraded at every 100 points, and purple required 700. There was still a long way to go, but now he was confident he could aim for a level beyond purple. With stat distribution complete, Suho summoned his old spear and began supplying it with magical power. As the process progressed, he noted its massive absorption capacity. The reaction began. He just needed a little more. The system confirmed that enough magic power had been supplied. Then it congratulated Suho for completing the awakening process and began updating the item information. He had now obtained the Shadow Spear. With the Shadow Spear in hand, Suho prepared himself. Round 2 was about to begin. The system revealed the truth about the Shadow Spear, one of the Shadow Lord's treasures, crafted from the bones of a shadow beast. It recognized its first awakener as its rightful owner. With the Shadow Summon ability, the spear could be drawn from the user's shadow at any time. If damaged, it could be restored through shadow regeneration, as long as both shadow and magic power were present. Suho reflected on the significance of this weapon. If Jang Pyong possessed the subspace fortress, then the Shadow Lord, a monarch of spirits, held the Shadow Spear. The spear's description directly identified him as the Shadow Lord, hinting at the possibility of a real Shadow Lord existing somewhere within the gate, a known fragment of the other world. This monarch, armed with the spear, rose in infamy just like Jang Pyong-ho, becoming a notorious criminal. Suho felt fortunate to have obtained the weapon before it fell into the wrong hands. Now it was time to test it. He summoned the Shadow Spear into his hand. The utility of Shadow Summon was immediately apparent. As round 2 began, he realized he couldn't attack from inside the subspace fortress since it lacked offensive capabilities. He needed to exit and strike the Tower Dragon's reverse scale while it still slept. Suho stepped out of the subspace and climbed onto a rocky ledge. From there, he spotted the Tower Dragon resting. He raised the Shadow Spear and launched it directly at the stone embedded in the dragon's tail. The spear pierced through cleanly, causing immense pain. In response, Suho leapt from the ledge. The system announced that the Tower Dragon was now enraged after its weak spot had been attacked. It released a wave of dragon fear, but Suho immediately activated the subspace fortress and retreated inside just before the effect could reach him. Since he hadn't taken the fear directly, no status effects were inflicted. His hit-and-run strategy continued. He struck repeatedly and retreated quickly, determined to wear the creature down. It took longer than expected, but eventually, the reverse scale's power dropped below 10%. Though not completely destroyed, it had become too weak to defend itself. However, the strategy had lost its effectiveness. The damage was now severe enough that the dragon remained constantly alert. Suho decided to abandon stealth for a direct confrontation. Emerging from the subspace once more, he charged toward the dragon. He jumped high into the air and drove the Shadow Spear into the dragon's eye. Upon landing, the dragon crashed violently to the ground, shattering the terrain. Suho was thrown a short distance by the impact. The enraged dragon scanned the area, searching for him. Seizing the opportunity, Suho dashed behind the beast. He closed in on the tail, aiming for the stone embedded in it once again. As he advanced, the dragon activated its powerful dragon fear. But just in time, Suho's spear shattered the stone completely. The system confirmed the destruction. He had successfully broken the Tower Dragon's reverse scale. The beast's energy began to fade. Suho consumed another purification potion, activating its cleansing effects. With his sword in hand, Suho launched into the air once more. In one decisive strike, he sliced through the dragon's throat, bringing the towering beast to its end. Suho stood victorious over the slain Tower Dragon. The system immediately responded, announcing that he had defeated the Tower Dragon and conquered the 49th floor. It declared a new record had been set for the Tower of Challenge and confirmed that Suho had successfully conquered the entire tower. In recognition of his extraordinary achievement, the system awarded him 10 bonus stats and began evaluating the magnitude of his feat. Lying on the ground, Suho took a moment to reflect. He had done something no one, neither in his past life nor the present, had ever managed. He had conquered the Tower of Challenge. Then, another reward was triggered. Reaching level 40 had granted him the Healing Spirit skill. It was a powerful area healing skill, and Suho knew that once it reached its maximum level, it would be capable of covering large-scale battlefields just like Isabella's. As the system finished evaluating his challenge, it announced a special reward. The value of Suho's accomplishment was deemed exceptional, and as a result, he was granted Dragon Blood. This caught Suho off guard. It was the signature ability of the monster player Youngma. He realized this must have been how Youngma obtained it, from the Dragon Mountains. The system revealed that those who possessed dragon blood could wield the power of a dragon, even if they weren't born as one, depending on their effort. Suho smiled in disbelief. It really was the legendary dragon blood. With this, he knew he would become much stronger in this life than he ever was before. The rewards, as expected of the final boss, were extraordinary. Excited, he prepared to activate his Shadow Spear. At that moment, the system notified him that the Shadow Spear was reacting to the Tower Dragon's shadow. It began absorbing it and completely consumed it. The weapon was upgraded to a new stage simply called Shadow Spear. Suho realized the hidden special option, Shadow Devour, not mentioned in the item's description, had grown at an astonishing rate after absorbing the tower's master. The system further stated that due to a sufficient supply of magic, part of the Shadow Spear's consciousness had awakened, and the item's information had been updated. Checking the new stats, Suho saw that Shadow Binding and Shadow Regeneration, previously A-ranked, had now been upgraded to S rank. He was astonished. Shadow Binding could now rip off the target's shadow and immobilize them. While the shadow was pierced by Shadow Fangs, the target would suffer continuous bleeding damage due to the shadow bleeding effect. Now armed with 2 new S-rank skills, Suho confirmed to himself that growth-type weapons were on a completely different level than regular ones. Satisfied with the gains, he decided it was time to leave. But then, something caught his eye. A large fang still remained on the ground. It hadn't disappeared. Picking it up, the system identified it as the fang of a mighty dragon. Those pierced by it would be cursed with an irrecoverable status, blocking all forms of recovery. Seeing this, Suho was stunned. He couldn't believe he had obtained a byproduct of a dragon that was said to be almost impossible to even see, let alone collect. It confirmed that the tower dragon wasn't just a dragonkin, it had been a true pureblood dragon. The byproducts of such a creature were S-grade materials by nature. No wonder the reward was dragon blood. He had truly hit the jackpot with this fight. With everything collected, Suho decided to head outside, expecting that reporter Joe Jinwi must be waiting eagerly. Outside the tower, the system broadcasted a historic announcement. The Tower of Challenge had been conquered, and the conqueror was player Suho. With that, all remaining players were forcibly expelled from the tower. Players tumbled out through the gates and landed on the ground in shock. Many couldn't believe what had happened. One questioned aloud whether Suho had really conquered the tower alone. Another tried to identify who Suho was. When they spotted him, they realized it was indeed the same person everyone was now crowding around. A wave of people and reporters rushed towards Suho, surrounding him and snapping pictures from every angle. Exhausted, Suho could feel the damage he had taken from the tower dragon weighing heavily on him. He needed rest and medical attention as soon as possible. In the distance, he spotted Jinwi sitting nervously, talking to himself about the unbelievable possibility that Suho had conquered the tower alone. Just then, Suho appeared beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder, startling Jinwi so much that he dropped to the ground. Suho mentioned that Jinwi had been waiting for him all along. Jinwi, still startled, asked how Suho had found him. More importantly, how he had managed to escape the crowd. Suho casually explained that he had slipped past everyone using his ultimate stealth technique to vanish without a trace. Then, extending his hand to Jinwi, Suho asked if he still didn't trust him. Looking at him seriously, Jinwi took his hand and replied that he knew Suho was crazy. Suho added that if Jinwi didn't trust him, he should say it now so Suho could find a different reporter. But Jinwi reassured him. If he didn't trust him, he wouldn't have come this far. With that, Suho told him to hop in, eager to leave before anyone started chasing them again. As Suho sat inside the car, he received a call from team leader Jung. Jung wanted to personally congratulate him for conquering the Tower of Challenge, but ended up doing it over the phone. He mentioned that Suho was right in front of him earlier but had vanished before he could approach. Suho thanked him for calling, explaining that he was a bit tired and had slipped away to avoid attention. Jung laughed, saying Suho always exceeded his expectations. He offered Suho a ride if he was still in Pangyo. Suho politely declined, mentioning that a friend had already come to pick him up and asked if there was something specific Jung wanted to talk about. Jung replied that it wasn't anything urgent but invited him to stop by the association if he wasn't too tired. He explained that the Tower of Challenge had been considered impossible to conquer and was even operated as a public gate. Given the scale of the incident, an investigation was necessary. Suho pointed out that even when large guilds had cleared difficult gates, such thorough investigations weren't conducted. He asked Jung to request any required information separately. Jung accepted this and wished him a good rest. Suho responded that he would reach out again soon. After the call ended, Suho reflected on the situation. He was certain that the chairman or vice chairman had asked Jung to bring him over for some photo ops. Although he felt sorry for Hyung Chulman, Suho had no intention of doing anything that might benefit those two. He knew that if Chulman failed to accomplish this, he might be in trouble. Suho was determined to protect him once he officially joined the Hunter Association. Meanwhile, Jinwi turned to Suho with a question that had been bothering him. He couldn't understand why someone with Suho's skill level would choose to become a civil servant when he could demand top offers anywhere. Suho replied that although private guilds might pay more, they could never surpass state authority. Shocked, Jinwi asked if he was serious, and Suho assured him that he meant what he said. Jinwi argued that private guilds had more fame and power. Suho acknowledged that while they did have the power to stage a coup, such achievements would be temporary. Right now, their value was highest as heroes in the eyes of the public. Jinwi agreed, noting that if players seized power by force, they would only inspire fear among people. Suho explained his real motive. He genuinely wished for the gates to disappear, but he also knew an individual couldn't resolve the crisis alone. Affiliations were essential, and he believed the government was the best choice. Jinwi understood that Suho would have priority during raids, and acknowledged that no one among the players he knew had Suho's sense of duty and impact. Suho appreciated the compliment. Curious, Jinwi asked if Suho was applying for public recruitment. However, he was surprised that someone of Suho's caliber would settle for a level 9 field position. Suho clarified that he wasn't applying for level 9. When Jinwi guessed level 7, Suho corrected him again. He was applying for level 5. This revelation stunned Jinwei, who asked again if he was serious. Suho reminded him that he always meant what he said and figured Jinwei wanted to know the reason. Suho promised to explain but warned him not to publish it as an article and to keep his eyes on the road. Jinwei agreed, clearly impressed with Suho's plan. Suho emphasized that this idea should remain off the record for now. He intended to release an official statement through Jinwei, knowing it would naturally become a hot topic. He offered Jinwei exclusive coverage to help boost his position in the company. Realizing Suho planned to use him strategically, Jinwei welcomed it. He then asked if Suho was heading home. With Suho's personal information likely leaked, there were probably people waiting outside his house. Suho replied that he could use the same escape method he'd used earlier at the tower. Jinwei suggested he stay at his place instead. Surprised, Suho asked if he meant staying at a reporter's house. Jinwei explained that he lived alone in a large, well-decorated house with high security, and the guest room was prepared. When Suho asked for the location, Jinwei said he lived in Kaiser Cheongdam. This shocked Suho, as it was a premium residential complex where homes were worth hundreds of billions. Once they arrived at the house, Suho was taken aback by its luxury. Jinwei welcomed him warmly and encouraged him to feel at home. Suho couldn't help but think that this was the pinnacle of being born with a golden spoon. Jinwei showed him the convenience function pad on the table. Through the community app, Suho could handle dining, shopping, and even access an emergency healer. Jinwei noted that Suho looked much cleaner now than when he had entered the car. Suho explained that it was because he was a healer. When Jinwei asked again, Suho insisted he really was a healer and seemed annoyed by the repeated questions. Jinwei apologized, admitting that despite reading about it, he still found it hard to believe. He couldn't understand how a healer had conquered the Tower of Challenge alone, as healers usually joined a guild first to level up. Grabbing his bag, Jinwei mentioned that he had to return to the office for work, and reminded Suho of the house password. Suho assured him not to worry and wished him a safe trip. After Jinwei left, Suho opened his system window and checked his status. He decided it was time to distribute the stat points he earned from conquering the tower. He balanced his stamina with other stats and invested the rest into sensitivity. At this level, it wasn't just an elite path, it was the path of a successor. He was impressed with his own stats. With the stat distribution complete, Suho began a new task. He had been a master at spotting surveillance cameras in the past, and now, with enhanced sensitivity, he could detect almost anything. Though he trusted Jinwei, and the likelihood of a conglomerate's son planting anything suspicious was low, Suho preferred to be cautious. Better safe than sorry. Suho sat on the sofa, glancing around the spacious house, quietly amazed by the luxury. The place felt far larger than any subspace house he'd seen before. Even locating the hidden camera seemed tougher than slaying a dragon. Still, with no surveillance devices in sight, he allowed himself to relax. Yet, his phone kept buzzing nonstop, pulling his attention back. As he checked the screen, Suho realized his personal information had been leaked. Someone had exposed his number, and messages wouldn't stop coming in. Accepting the situation, he decided to get a new phone and number. He recalled the community app Jinwei had mentioned and considered giving it a try. Later, while checking his phone again, he found the app surprisingly effective. He chose to retire the old device and started using the new one for personal matters. Even though the messages kept pouring in, he planned to change the number soon. Lying back on his bed, Suho checked the time. It was a little past 5. He decided to take a short break before heading out. Meanwhile, in Seochogunegakdong, inside a quiet building, a mysterious gate appeared. Several masked individuals stepped through it. They scanned the area cautiously, ensuring no one was around. Then, opening the bags they carried, they began setting bombs throughout the space with practiced precision. As they continued their setup, Suho suddenly appeared, calmly stating that bombing buildings wasn't a good idea. Startled, the masked group froze. Confused, they wondered why anyone was present, since the building was supposed to be empty for the day. Suho admitted it was unusual, but explained he had anticipated their actions and showed up intentionally. He suggested they talk. Panic spread through the group. One member shouted in alarm and urged the others to escape. As they rushed back toward the gate, one girl in the group stumbled and collapsed. Concerned, the others paused and questioned if she had fallen by herself. One member attempted to help her up but couldn't move her. Another urged him to hurry and carry her in, but his efforts failed. Unknown to them, Suho had used his shadow bind skill, chaining her legs to the ground with dark energy. Struggling, the man informed the team that something strange was happening. She wouldn't move. He had no idea what Suho had done. The girl, however, calmly muttered a single word: abandon. The man resisted the idea, refusing to leave her behind. But the girl insisted, signaling to kill Suho. Hearing her command, the team exchanged looks, then charged at Suho together. Just as they launched their attack, something invisible overwhelmed them. All three collapsed to the floor, struck down by Suho's powerful intimidation skill. With them subdued, Suho questioned if they were members of Banshee. The narration shifted to explain that Banshee was a notorious terrorist organization, responsible for multiple bombings and chaos. Though they had eventually been caught, the damage done by just 4 members had been immense. Surprised by the recognition, the group demanded to know how Suho knew their organization's name. Suho responded calmly and stepped closer to one of the masked men. Removing the man's cap, Suho identified him as Guakduho, the team's muscle, who did day labor jobs and heavy lifting. Then, pointing to another, he named Seo Kiawan, the bomb maker responsible for past terror attacks, who worked as a middle school science teacher. Next was Kim Hyunmin, the team's transporter with a movement skill, working by day as a delivery driver. Finally, Suho turned to Gu Yeonhwa, a student at Korea Women's University and the true mastermind behind Banshee. She possessed an EMP ability capable of disabling electronics and magical tools. Shocked, Yeonhwa asked how Suho knew everything. Smiling, he told her that anything could be discovered if one tried hard enough. He reminded her that she already knew who he was. Still hesitant, Yeonhwa demanded to know his identity. Suho praised her quick thinking and told her to inform the rest that he wasn't some random stranger. She questioned why she should trust him. Suho then revealed even more. He knew how to handle people like her. Including today's event, there had been 3 bomb attacks so far. Though there were no civilian casualties, property damage had occurred, and that still counted as a crime. Her EMP ability had wiped out all surveillance footage, leaving the police clueless. But Suho had uncovered everything. Their attack methods, how they erased evidence, and even where they lived and who surrounded them. Stunned by his knowledge, Yeonhwa called out to stop him. Suho stepped closer and calmly acknowledged that she was finally ready to talk. Suho calmly assured Yeonhwa that he wasn't from the government and had no intention of capturing or harming her. But Yeonhwa remained skeptical, questioning how they were supposed to believe him. Suho, slightly frustrated, reminded her that he thought she was willing to talk. He warned that if she wasn't ready to cooperate, he might as well hand her over to the police, leaving the choice up to her. Hearing this, Yeonhwa finally relented and asked what he wanted. Suho replied that it would have been better if she had agreed earlier. He mentioned that the current location wasn't ideal for talking and suggested they move elsewhere. He asked her to retrieve the bombs she had planted and proposed talking at their hideout. Yeonhwa was surprised and wondered how much he actually knew. Suho then turned to Hyunmin and asked if he could move now, requesting him to open the door, as they couldn't just take a taxi to the destination. Once inside the hideout, Suho told everyone to make themselves comfortable. He pointed out that since it was their space, they could relax and remove their masks. But Yeonhwa declined, saying they were comfortable as they were. Suho's tone grew firm as he insisted they remove their masks. In response, Yeonhwa pulled off her mask and claimed it was only because the air had suddenly become stuffy, not because he told them to. She quickly shifted the focus, demanding to know how he knew who they were and why he had approached them. After all, his reputation was tied to conquering gates. Suho, smiling, admitted that her questions were so many he didn't know where to begin. He explained that he used his personal skills to find them and uncover their secrets. Just like them, he too possessed skills he kept hidden. Yeonhwa, now more focused, asked what he really wanted. Suho extended an offer. He wanted them to work with him. He mentioned a recent interview with a PBS reporter where he had shared his future plans. Yeonhwa assumed he meant joining the Hunter Association. Suho confirmed it. But Yeonhwa became agitated, accusing him of planning to hand them over for special recruitment. Suho denied it firmly, asking her to hear him out. He explained that he would take the level 5 exam, and after transitioning through 1 or 2 positions, his aim was to join the Special Forces unit. When Yeonhwa reacted with surprise, Suho told her not to make that face. He knew they all held a grudge against the Special Forces, and that was why they had been targeting related locations with terrorist activities. He revealed that he shared similar reasons. As a gate orphan, he initially believed he was simply unlucky, but later realized it had all been part of a man-made disaster. He elaborated that once a gate is cleared, the area is declared a safe zone and land prices rise. The government, aware of the incoming gate shock, deliberately chose not to stop it. Several development projects had been tied to that land, and Suho knew who was behind it. His goal was to become the head of the Special Forces unit and ensure those responsible paid for their actions. He explained that the Special Forces unit held the most authority within the Hunter Association. It also influenced other government departments and had the power to investigate and prosecute hunters. Suho offered to help them exact their revenge, but in a precise and strategic way. He came to them because he needed people who could work discreetly as his hands and feet. Still skeptical, Yeonhwa pointed out there was no guarantee he would pass the level 5 exam. Suho told her to decide after watching him succeed. However, he warned that if they committed any more terrorist acts, he would personally hand them over to the Special Forces unit. With that, he ended his proposal. In his thoughts, Suho knew they must be shocked. Banshee had always operated under deep secrecy. In his previous life, it had been a tough task to even capture them. But during their interrogation, he discovered they were people like him. Their misguided vengeance had turned them into a feared terror group. If someone had guided them earlier, things might have been different. So this time, before they strayed too far, Suho intended to correct their path, no matter how long it took. He was confident Yeonhwa would accept his offer. It was tempting, and his skills were reliable. Now he just had to wait. He left them with a final remark, telling them to take their time and make a wise decision. The scene then shifted to the South Korea Hunter Association, where the vice president confronted team leader Jung. He scolded him for failing a simple task and reminded him that even the president had cleared his schedule to meet a certain individual. Though he let it slide for now, he warned Jung of the consequences if he failed again. Jung apologized and acknowledged the warning. The vice president dismissed him, urging him to get back to work. Outside, Jung sighed, reflecting on the long hours he spent being reprimanded. He considered quitting everything and joining a civilian guild, but then reminded himself why he had joined the Hunter Association in the first place. He had endured so much already, and enduring one more moment wasn't impossible. He urged himself to stay strong. Just then, Chief P appeared and placed a hand on Jung's shoulder, recognizing him as team leader Jung. Jung, already irritated, questioned why he had to run into this person now, of all times. Trying to keep his composure, Jung asked what Chief Pi was doing there. Chief Pi responded playfully, saying he had heard his cherished team leader Jung was getting an earful. Chief Pi acknowledged Jung's patience in enduring the old man's constant nagging, but Jung immediately blamed himself for the situation. As they walked together, Chief P shifted the topic, mentioning the rumors about Suho causing some trouble. Jung clarified that Suho wasn't exactly causing trouble, though word had indeed spread. Chief P noted that only a few people were aware of it and offered his help. When Jung asked what he meant, P suggested a simple tactic. Just accuse Suho with a charge and bring him in for questioning. The misunderstanding could be cleared up later. According to him, it was all about bringing one person over. He continued, explaining that if they called Suho in, the president could release another friend currently summoned for questioning. It would make everything appear organized and smooth. Chief Pi pointed out that the friend in question also wanted to join the Hunter Association, implying that this plan would benefit everyone involved. Jung responded cautiously, calling Pi's ideas mischievous. Interfering with someone as successful as Suho could easily backfire. But Chief P remained unfazed, admiring Jung's moral character and wondering why someone in his position would be so cautious around a mere hunter. Jung agreed, though his tone remained reserved. P reminded him to think carefully, stressing that prosecutors still held the power to investigate and charge hunters. There was a reason why people used to fear them. He urged Jung to be more flexible in his thinking, questioning why someone with his authority was being so careful. Jung nodded and said he would keep it in mind. Before parting, Chief P offered his support, encouraging Jung to reach out if needed. He assured him that there were better ways than strictly following the rulebook, then wished Jung well. Jung replied politely, ending the conversation. As Pi left, Jung reflected quietly. He had initially respected Pi for being one of the few hunters within the association. Compared to the out-of-touch higher-ups, P had seemed more grounded. But now, Jung wasn't so sure. The more someone knew, the more dangerous they became, and P knew too much. Feeling unsettled, Jung decided it was best to take a break. Outside, Jung found a quiet spot and sat down, lost in thought. He remembered Suho from earlier. At first, Suho had shown genuine support for the Hunter Association, but that had suddenly changed. It wasn't surprising, though. Major guilds offered massive benefits that were hard to resist. Still, Jung wondered what Suho was truly thinking. Meanwhile, Suho stepped out of a taxi and activated the ring on his hand, known as Mumu. He recalled how impulsive it had been to activate the first one, but after conquering the Tower of Challenge, he had mastered using it. Now, it was time to move. Suho made his way into the Seoul Central Blood Center building, thinking the target location should be nearby. He activated his magic detection skill, scanning the area. He found it, a faint but distinct trail of magic power. Gates naturally emitted large amounts of magical energy, so even if hidden, some of it would always leak out. And here, only one gate was doing so. Approaching the spot, Suho discovered a hidden gate. It appeared faintly in the air, concealed like mist. However, this wasn't just any hidden gate. It required specific conditions to activate. Each one had its own unique requirements. Suho took out a knife and cut his palm, letting the blood flow into the gate. He knew this gate demanded blood to open. Once it absorbed a certain amount, the condition would be fulfilled. The system soon confirmed it. The condition had been met. A hidden gate had been discovered. Suho had achieved a remarkable feat and earned 5 bonus stats. This mysterious gate bore a name, Blood's Decree. After entering the hidden gate, Suho used glow-in-the-dark powder to illuminate his surroundings. Observing the cave structure, he noted that the first stage was set within a cave and decided to proceed. As he moved deeper into the cave, a mysterious liquid dropped onto his head. Looking up, he realized it might be stalactite water, or perhaps saliva. Above him, countless vampire bats hovered, all at level 63. Seeing this, Suho smirked, amused by the welcoming feast awaiting him. Without hesitation, he activated his intimidation skill. The effect was instant. All the vampire bats lost control and dropped to the ground. Suho calmly approached one of them and thrust his shadow spear into its body. The spear began devouring its shadow, and with this single action, every bat in the area was eliminated in an instant. He opened his status window, satisfied. This method proved to be unmatched when dealing with low-tier enemies. With an S-class intimidation skill, level differences became meaningless. Typically, hunters focused on enhancing just 2 primary stats, but Suho had deciphered the full color-coded stat system. Confident in his approach, he intended to develop all his stats simultaneously. Reviewing his status again, Suho questioned the unusually high level of the zone, wondering if it was excessive for hunting mere vampire bats. He considered checking the combat log for more details. As he reflected, he noticed traces of a blood slime among the fallen enemies. It must have been hiding among the bats and was unintentionally eliminated during the chaos. While clearing these minor threats with brute force felt somewhat dull, he acknowledged the value of intimidation. Though higher-level monsters typically develop resistance to fear, this skill still worked unless they were special types. Soon, Suho arrived outside the boss room. Feeling pumped, he expressed excitement for the main challenge ahead. Without delay, he entered. Inside the boss room, Suho summoned his sword. Immediately, a large bat lunged at him. He raised his weapon and blocked the attack. Recognizing the enemy, he identified it as the Great King Vampire Bat and responded with a swift slash. Suddenly, a golem appeared from behind and launched a surprise attack. Suho dodged by leaping to the side. Evaluating the situation, he concluded that neither of these creatures were true bosses, yet they weren't regular monsters either. These were mini-bosses. With no time to waste, Suho engaged them. He attacked the golem with his sword, but the bat retaliated from behind. Reacting quickly, Suho spun around and delivered a clean slash at the bat. In that moment, the golem tried to punch him, but Suho slid back to avoid the blow. Then, gripping his sword tightly, he slammed it into the ground. A powerful shockwave burst out from the blade and surged forward, striking both the golem and the bat simultaneously. The impact caused a loud explosion. Thinking the fight was over, Suho expressed satisfaction, confident he had finished them. But as the dust began to clear, he saw both the bat and the golem still standing, very much alive. Suho began clashing fiercely with the bat and the golem. As the battle intensified, he realized that normal physical attacks were ineffective against such high-level foes. It was time to use what he had prepared in advance. Just then, both the golem and the bat launched a coordinated attack from opposite directions. Suho quickly summoned another sword. A sudden explosion filled the air as both monsters struck, and when the dust cleared, it revealed Suho had driven one sword into the bat behind him and another into the golem in front. Even after cutting them down repeatedly, he saw no lasting damage. But he understood one thing: even powerful creatures had weaknesses. Their weakness was pure silver infused with holy power. At that moment, the system confirmed that holy power was now bestowed upon the pure silver sword. Instantly, the sword embedded in the bat began to glow, and a powerful thunder strike struck the bat from above. In a single moment, its throat was sliced open. Suho stood over the fallen bat, placing his foot atop its head. Judging by how the creature exploded like an insect struck by a swatter, it was clear that holy power was incredibly effective. He wondered if the golem would fall just as dramatically. Before he could finish that thought, the golem charged forward with a punch. Suho countered swiftly, slashing the creature into pieces with his holy enhanced sword. Looking down at his weapon, Suho noted how perfectly it had worked. The healer-exclusive skill allowing holy attribute enchantments had proven to be a great asset. By enchanting a pure silver weapon with holy energy, every strike turned into a critical hit. It was the ideal countermeasure for the enemies in this area. Suddenly, Suho sensed a powerful presence behind him. As he turned, he realized the true boss of this hidden gate had finally appeared. The boss stepped forward, addressing Suho with fury. It was the Cursed Prince, a formidable monster at level 76. He accused Suho of invading the domain and killing his subordinates, demanding that Suho kneel and confess his sins. But Suho had come to capture him, not to surrender. Enraged by Suho's confidence, the prince unleashed his power, declaring him unbearably arrogant. Suho blocked the first strike with his sword and, unfazed, questioned if the prince had finished his grand entrance. In response, the prince charged another attack, slamming it into the ground. Blood veils erupted, spreading across the battlefield and completely obscuring the surroundings. The dense energy made it impossible to locate the prince's position. Suho braced himself, aware the prince could strike from any direction. He glanced behind, suspecting movement. The prince attacked from that exact spot, but Suho reacted quickly and blocked the strike. The prince was shocked to see his move intercepted. Suho relied on his sharp sensing abilities, immediately retaliating with a slash, believing he had landed a solid hit. However, the prince remained unfazed. He mocked Suho's efforts, revealing that such an attack wouldn't harm him. In that moment, Suho was taken aback as the system issued an alert. The cursed prince had activated a powerful skill, Blood Scream. Suho plunged his sword into the ground, activating the healing spirit. The aura it released felt deeply unpleasant, enough for the prince to react with visible discomfort. The wounds that had once covered Suho's body had mysteriously vanished. Smiling, Suho calmly revealed that despite appearances, he was actually a healer. The prince glanced down, stunned to find a wound on his abdomen that hadn't been there moments ago. Suho, without hesitation, prepared to demonstrate his technique again. Enraged by the mockery of a mere human, the prince lunged forward. Suho countered immediately, his sword clashing against the prince's hand. A fast-paced exchange of blows followed as the two launched relentless attacks at each other. For a brief moment, the prince believed he had the upper hand. He unleashed a flurry of rapid strikes, but Suho suddenly appeared behind him. Striking from the rear, Suho forced the prince to stumble backward, blood pouring from his mouth. Seizing the momentum, Suho rushed in once again. In response, the prince activated his power and charged forward, unwilling to let Suho escape. The two collided with tremendous force, their clash sending shockwaves through the air. When they landed, the scene turned deadly. The prince's head separated from his body and rolled to the ground. Suho approached the severed head and crouched beside it, mocking the ease of the prince's defeat. But before he could react further, the head bit into Suho's hand. The prince, still conscious through his severed form, mentally cursed Suho for pushing beyond his limits. He demanded Suho's blood, aiming to enslave him. With a disgusted expression, Suho yanked the head away and flung it aside. The prince, to him, truly resembled a mosquito, sinking its fangs in without warning. At that moment, the system announced the beginning of kin conversion. Suho collapsed onto the ground, overwhelmed by the rapid loss of blood. His body trembled with dizziness and a pounding headache. A sudden thirst took hold. The prince, now inside Suho's mind, declared it was too late to resist. Suho demanded silence, unwilling to hear the prince's voice in his head. Kin conversion began progressing. Suho reminded himself to endure the process. To gain the vampire trait, synchronization had to reach a certain threshold. Once that point arrived, he needed to purify the infection instantly with holy water. As the conversion hit 50%, Suho believed he was close to acquiring the trait. He reached for the holy water and prepared to purify himself. But just as he acted, the bottle shattered unexpectedly, startling him. The prince revealed that this was his domain. Suho was trapped within his space, and no action would change the outcome. Suho realized the prince had been far more cautious than anticipated. The corridor that had once been destroyed had been restored, and even the prince's severed body had vanished. It felt like preparations were being made for the next phase. Still defiant, Suho decided to attempt another approach. The system warned that Suho's blood had started to become corrupted. The prince, gloating, claimed there was no escape. But Suho revealed he still had a hidden card to play. In response, the system notified him that all conditions to unlock the second power of dragon blood had been fulfilled. He had reached level 50 and survived a mentally and physically life-threatening situation. As a result, dragon armor was now available. With a confident smile, Suho acknowledged that he had activated it just in time. At that moment, the kin conversion process came to a halt. Suho's system suddenly declared that all conditions for unlocking the second power of dragon blood had been met. With that, the second power was activated, dragon armor. He had now mastered Dragon's Endowment and Dragon Skin, both bestowed by the armor. The Dragon Armor's endowment effect activated immediately. As a result, no further assimilation would occur. The corrupted blood within him began to cleanse itself, replaced by purified blood that started absorbing into his system. The corrupted blood was completely removed due to the effect of the Dragon's Endowment, and Suho successfully mastered the unknown power once hidden in the corrupted vampire blood. Suho felt his body become lighter. He recalled planning to unlock the second dragon blood power through a custom gate at level 50, but to his surprise, he had achieved it, here and now. He checked his newly acquired skill, Dragon's Endowment. The skill was an innate trait exclusively available to those born with the dragon's blood. It represented nobility and superiority in their bloodline. While active, the endowment made the player immune to any infection or corruption, enabling automatic absorption of corrupted sources to purify, heal, and evolve. Although the system had never revealed the second condition for this awakening, Suho had learned it through Yongma. Since kin conversion posed a life-threatening risk, the system acknowledged it as a trigger. Even though the dragon's endowment purified the corrupted blood, it still absorbed and retained the power held within the vampire blood, completing its purpose. He decided to take a closer look at the skills he had just gained. One was a vampire-related skill, evidence of almost becoming one, currently in a sealed state. Suho wondered if it was accurate to say he had truly acquired it. His goal had been to obtain vampire blood and gain its traits, but it seemed impossible to hold both dragon blood and vampire blood at the same time. Even so, the skills he did acquire were impressive, so he accepted the outcome. He examined another new skill, Blood Weapon. It was a rare ability usable only by noble-level vampires or higher. However, it required a significant amount of blood to activate. He concluded he would need to hunt a large number of monsters to fuel the skill and planned to simultaneously develop Phantom Shadow during the process. Just then, the prince began mumbling to himself. Annoyed, Suho told him to stop, finding it irritating and incomprehensible. The prince lamented, confused over how Suho was still fine after being bitten. He blamed a curse and saw himself as completely useless. Suho realized that Phase 2 was finally beginning. The system confirmed this shift. It announced that the cursed king was lamenting his fate and that his power had increased dramatically. Suddenly, blood rained down from above, and from within that blood emerged the cursed king, now at level 80. Bursting with rage, he declared his intent to destroy all those better than him, to burn and crush them, and cast them into the pit. He unfurled his blood wings and released a powerful scream. Witnessing this, Suho sensed immense magical power radiating from the king, who had transformed into an entirely different being. The Cursed King launched a furious dark force attack towards Suho, resulting in a massive explosion. But when the dust settled, Suho was no longer in sight. In a flash, he appeared above the king's wing and delivered a powerful sword strike. The king remained unfazed and insisted that such an attack wouldn't bring him down easily. Suho noted how the king had grown smarter along with his power. In response, the king used his wing to push Suho away with brute force. Suho recognized the growing danger. The king rushed forward and attacked again, prompting Suho to meet his strikes head-on with his sword. Blocking the blows, Suho activated his holy power, asserting its superiority regardless of the king's strength. But the king shattered Suho's weapon and claimed that holy power meant nothing to him now. Suho quickly retreated and assessed the situation. A weapon imbued with holy power had been broken so easily. Clearly, ordinary weapons would no longer work against this foe. Without hesitation, Suho summoned his bloody sword. The king, now seething with rage, demanded that Suho hand it over and launched another aggressive attack. But Suho infused his bloody sword with holy power, slicing through the incoming strike and shocking the king. Suho realized that the blood weapon's attack power and durability scaled with his stats. At his current level, the sword had reached the red rank, more than enough to fight back effectively. He decided it was time to end this battle. The king, furious, conjured a bloody spear and charged forward, vowing to tear Suho apart. He unleashed a powerful strike, but Suho transformed his bloody sword into a shield and blocked the attack, leaving the king stunned once more. Suho reminded him that he wasn't the only one capable of transforming a blood weapon. With that, he shifted the shield back into a sword and slashed the king's throat, bringing the battle to a swift, decisive end. Suho stared at the severed head of the cursed king lying on the ground. The king smirked, still radiating arrogance, confident that no matter how many times someone tried to cut off his head, it wouldn't matter. Without hesitation, Suho kicked the head away, launching it far from him. Then he summoned his shadow spear and slammed it into the ground. Chains burst forth as Shadowbind activated, instantly wrapping around the king's head and locking it in place. Suho knew he had to act quickly before the king caused more problems. As the bindings tightened, he reminded himself there was still a lot left to do. The system confirmed that vampire blood had been activated, and the absorbed blood was now stored within the blood jade. The king struggled, screaming for Suho to remove his hands immediately. Suho examined the blood jade closely. This was his first time seeing it, and it was clear how much blood had already been collected. According to the Blood Monarch, the blood jade could only be seen by its owner. The Blood Monarch himself had once been a regular employee, a healer working at the Central Blood Institute, but everything changed when he was trapped inside the hidden gate known as Blood's Decree. He reached the boss room but failed to defeat the Cursed King and was bitten, transforming into a vampire. Ordinarily, that transformation would have meant death. Once bitten and turned, the system would classify the victim as a monster, shutting the gate permanently. But the Blood Monarch didn't surrender to his fate. Using his healing abilities, he managed to neutralize the kin conversion. At that moment, new and unique vampire skills awakened within him, completely restructuring his stats. Reborn with power, he defeated the Cursed King and conquered the gate. From then on, he was known as the Blood Monarch, a feared global villain. Eventually, Suho captured him and turned him into a source of critical information. Details about kin conversion, blood weapons, and vampire blood. But even now, the Cursed King vowed revenge, furious over the humiliation. Suho welcomed the challenge, daring him to try. At that moment, the system responded. The Phantom Shadow resonated with the Cursed King's shadow, absorbing it completely. The Cursed King's shadow vanished as it was fully taken in by the Phantom Shadow. Standing tall, Suho acknowledged that with this, the Blood's Decree gate had finally been cleared. The system confirmed the hidden gate had been conquered and named Suho as the MVP. Before him, an exit gate formed. As Suho prepared to leave, he reflected on what had just occurred. Once again, he was reminded of the incredible power held by dragons. No matter how intense kin conversion seemed, it was nothing in comparison to the strength granted by dragon's blood. Still, it was disappointing that the vampire managed to slip away. The system then announced a special reward. After analyzing Suho's talents, it decided to grant him a skill perfectly suited for him. Suho received a unique skill, along with 10 bonus stats for his great achievement. The new skill was called New Blood. Suho had never heard of it before. As he browsed through his system window, he realized how valuable this skill was. This was a total jackpot if he continued down this path. Not only that, he also obtained an S-rank skill from an original vampire. This was surprising. Even the vampire traits possessed by the Blood Monarch were only A+ rank. That monarch never had skills labeled royal or original, yet Suho's did. He concluded this must be due to the unique effects of the New Blood skill. Initially, his plan was to monopolize powerful existing skills. But things had turned out even better than expected. He knew it was important to remain cautious. Just because things were going well now didn't mean they always would. With everything settled, Suho declared that he had obtained what he came for. It was time to go big at Nexus. The scene shifted to the Nexus headquarters. Inside the building, Director Kim made her way to the guild leader's office. Upon entering, she informed him that Hunter Suho planned to visit the next day to join the guild. The guild leader responded calmly, suggesting they prepare thoroughly. With someone as unpredictable as An Suho, anything could happen. At night, Suho quietly entered Jin Hui's room only to find him lying down, exhausted. Surprised, Suho noticed Jin Hui had dozed off near a drink bottle left on the table. Seeing Suho, Jin Hui immediately woke up and greeted him warmly, acknowledging Suho's achievement of conquering the Tower of Challenge earlier that day. Despite it being temporary, Jin Hui reminded Suho that they were still roommates and partners. Lifting the drink bottle with a smile, Jin Hui shared that he had been waiting to celebrate Suho's success. He returned from work to find the room empty and had fallen asleep while waiting. Suho, understanding the fatigue Jin Hui must be experiencing from handling everything alone, told him that this sort of thing would become common in the future. Jin Hui appreciated Suho's confidence but also found it a little irritating, prompting Suho to laugh and tell him to wait and see. Suho then took a seat at the dinner table and suggested they have a drink together. Jin Hui agreed happily. As they ate, Jin Hui mentioned trying out the community app and was impressed by how complete it was, complimenting Suho's living space. Suho responded by saying he already knew Jin Hui was doing well, just by reading his blogs, even assuming he must be very wealthy. Jin Hui took a sip and confirmed that being the youngest son of a chaebol family came with its own level of luxury. Hearing this, Suho asked if Jin Hui was really the youngest son of a chaebol family. Jin Hui revealed that since Suho had shared a secret, he'd share one in return. He was the youngest son of the chairman of Disan Group. Suho was taken aback by the information and tried to understand the implications. Jin Hui clarified that all his siblings had different mothers, and his mother was more like the chairman's mistress. He was essentially an illegitimate or secondary son, a fact he hadn't even told his colleagues. He shared this with Suho because he felt they'd be working together for a long time. Suho, surprised, asked if Jin Hui really did journalism as a hobby. Jin Hui admitted it was partly due to that and also because it was fun. While eating, he explained that though he received many things from his father, he held no shares and had no influence within Disan Group. He even turned down the offer to inherit a subsidiary, admitting that while he was good with a pen, he was terrible at management. Suho, impressed, said he found Jin Hui remarkable as a journalist. Jin Hui chuckled and returned the compliment, stating he had never met a hunter like Suho and proposed a toast. They both stood up, clinked their glasses, and celebrated. The next morning, Suho woke up to find Jin Hui already awake and greeting him. Suho asked if he was heading to work despite it being the weekend. While preparing coffee, Jin Hui said yes, there was still a lot to do. Suho regretted drinking too much the previous night, but Jin Hui reassured him that it was fun, so it didn't matter. Suho then asked for some water, and Jin Hui handed him a drink. As they sipped their coffee, Suho asked if Jin Hui would now stop looking for other stories. Jin Hui explained that he couldn't rely on Suho's stories forever. Suho appreciated that attitude, saying that's why he liked Jin Hui. Jin Hui jokingly called it a sudden confession, then asked about Suho's plans for the day. Suho replied that today was the important day he had mentioned earlier. Jin Hui realized what he meant. It was the day to visit Nexus. Suho confirmed this, revealing that he had reached level 50 and even gained a new skill the previous night. Jin Hui was shocked, recalling Suho was only at level 40 after exiting the Tower of Challenge. Reaching level 50 in just one day was unbelievable. Suho corrected him, stating he was actually at level 51 now. Jin Hui, more curious than ever, remarked how mysterious Suho seemed. Suho found the comment strange and asked why Jin Hui was staring at him like that. Jin Hui dismissed it but insisted that Suho needed to dress well for a meeting with a major guild like Nexus. He began pushing Suho toward changing clothes, which left Suho confused. Suho argued he could just go casually, but Jin Hui firmly disagreed. He offered to lend clothes and a watch, insisting Suho had to look sharp. He even told Suho to choose a car from the garage, pointing out that it was better than using public transport since many eyes would be watching. The scene transitioned smoothly as Suho arrived at Nexus headquarters in a luxurious car. The entire company staff had gathered outside to welcome him. Seeing Suho step out of such a branded vehicle, they were visibly impressed. Suho, confident, thought to himself that his dramatic entrance and perfect parking had surely made a strong impression. A man stepped forward and introduced himself as Bae Dong-hyuk, the leader of Nexus, handing Suho his business card. Suho responded by introducing himself as An Suho. The leader of Nexus acknowledged Suho's rapid growth over the past few days, admitting he was concerned Suho might back out. He remembered Suho originally saying his dream was to become a public servant. Suho confirmed that this was still his goal, causing surprise among everyone present. The Nexus leader questioned why Suho wanted to join a private guild despite having such ambitions. Suho explained that joining a guild would make it easier to enter the Hunter Association. He planned to take the 5th grade exam that year. When asked if he was aiming for extra points by joining a large guild, Suho said that was partly true. However, his main strategy was psychological warfare. He explained that showing interest only in the Hunter Association would make them think they had already secured him. By joining Nexus, he could prevent that and use the guild as leverage. In return, Nexus could benefit from his abilities. He assured them he planned to give his best as a guild member, making it a win-win situation. After listening to Suho's detailed explanation, the Nexus leader acknowledged his point but raised a concern. Earlier, Suho had proposed a bold deal that seemed too daring at the time, especially since Nexus had been underperforming. Now, with all the major guilds likely desperate to recruit Suho, he wondered why Suho continued reaching out only to them. Though he acknowledged Suho's talent, he still couldn't grasp Suho's true intentions. If Suho had chosen them simply because they seemed easy to deal with, then no matter how skilled he was, Nexus would have to decline. After hearing the words of the Nexus leader, Suho fell silent for a moment. Then, with composed resolve, he explained that he had personal reasons. He had seen the leader's speeches, especially the one where Nexus pledged to contribute the most in conquering gates across South Korea. In his mind, Suho recalled how Nexus had consistently been at the forefront of relief operations and had shown unwavering dedication. Looking the leader in the eye, Suho expressed that he knew those ideals were genuine. Even if he was being used, he felt it was worthwhile if it was for someone like Nexus. And if future cooperation could continue after he joined the Hunter Association, it would be even better. A faint smile appeared on his face. Hearing this, the Nexus leader was clearly surprised. He asked whether Suho truly needed to join the Hunter Association, pointing out that private guilds could offer better support and that gate conquest was still possible through guild activities. Suho agreed, but emphasized that true progress required venturing into uncharted and high-risk areas, places that others would never dare to touch. He referenced the sealed gates, specially classified by the government as high-risk zones. Suho boldly stated his aim to conquer not just medium-scale disaster gates, but all 5 major disaster gates. Until his entry into the Hunter Association, every gate he conquered would create waves in the industry. With that momentum, he vowed to make Nexus the #1 guild. The guild leader then questioned whether Suho planned to do all this while still with Nexus. Suho affirmed it, promising to give his all during his time there. Besides gate conquest, he also intended to help with recruiting and training new guild members. At that moment, Director Kim jumped in, surprised to hear about training. She asked if Suho had anyone specific in mind from his previous visit. Suho confirmed, Kang Daehan. Director Kim was stunned. She remembered how Daehan had suddenly switched weapons, and how she had encouraged him to become a tank when she came to finalize the scholarship contract. Rising from her chair, she shouted in disbelief, questioning what if being a tank didn't suit him. Calmly, Suho explained that his suggestion came after a thorough analysis, and Daehan ended up passing with excellent results. Director Kim sighed with regret and admitted he was right. Suho chuckled, proud of the outcome. Director Kim continued, admitting that based on all prior data and statistics, they had not expected Daehan to pass this year. But thanks to Suho, he achieved the second highest ranking. Suho, filled with pride, said it wasn't difficult at all. Watching this unfold, Director Kim silently fumed at how annoying it was. Just then, another person in the room spoke up. He acknowledged that Suho's proposals were excellent and foolish to reject, but he had a question. Suho encouraged him to go ahead. The man pointed out that Suho had mentioned targeting the sealed gates, but these were under strict government control. Even large guilds struggled to get permits, as the government prioritized safety over profits. He asked how Suho planned to secure entry. Suho sensed the doubt and noted that the man found it hard to trust him. The man quickly clarified that wasn't the case. Suho then proposed to proceed with the contract only after obtaining the necessary permits, allowing them to judge whether his words were mere boasting. But Suho immediately changed course, offering instead to conquer one of the sealed gates first, and only then finalize the contract. This would serve as his proof. Impressed, the man noted how Suho always came up with offers that were impossible to refuse. Suho responded confidently. Though he was still just a rookie, yet to even reach level 100, he wanted to shed that label as soon as possible and be recognized as a professional. He would prove himself. The Nexus leader, now deeply moved by Suho's confidence, expressed his admiration and agreed to resume discussions after Suho conquered a sealed gate. In the next scene, they exited the building. The Nexus guild leader called over the man who had been sitting beside him, his secretary. He instructed him to prepare all the necessary documents for Hunter on Suho and to form a dedicated team exclusively for him. The secretary, shocked by this sudden decision, hesitated and asked whether they should wait for the entrance permit first. But the guild leader brushed off the concern, stating it didn't matter. He wanted to show their sincerity and had full confidence that Suho would keep his word. The secretary, clearly nervous, asked if this decision was based on a mere hunch. With a calm smile, the guild leader replied that it wasn't a hunch, it was certainty. He reminded the secretary that he too had seen it. Suho's eyes had been full of conviction, with not a hint of hesitation. The secretary admitted he had felt the same. Meanwhile, in a different location, the team leader appeared stressed, overwhelmed by his thoughts. He regretted bringing Suho there, knowing Suho had clearly said he wouldn't come. He considered proposing an award for clearing the Tower of Challenge, but knew it would be rejected. The higher-ups didn't want a photo of Suho receiving an award. They wanted one where they appeared friendly with him. But the team leader firmly refused to resort to violence. Frustrated, he leaned his head on the table, trying to figure out how to bring Suho back. It was giving him a real headache. At that moment, his phone rang. Seeing an unknown number, he wondered who it could be. He answered the call, introducing himself as Jung Chulman, team leader of Gate Management Division 1. As he heard the voice on the other end, surprise flashed across his face. It was Suho. Stunned, the team leader struggled to process what he had just heard. At a quiet restaurant, Suho met with his team leader. He looked around the familiar place and recalled his part-time days nearby, praising it as the best spot for boiled beef set meals. The team leader was surprised Suho knew this place. Suho, a bit embarrassed, explained that he used to come here often during his part-time job days. The team leader then mentioned his surprise when Suho asked to meet and questioned him about his new phone number. Suho clarified that he changed it because of the overwhelming calls and gave the new one for future contact. Hearing this, the team leader acknowledged how hectic things must be for Suho and expressed gratitude, admitting he thought Suho would completely cut off communication. But Suho calmly dismissed that idea, even jokingly asking if anything troubling had come up, like rumors about the association pressuring the team leader to bring him in. Hearing this, the team leader appeared shocked and asked how Suho found out. Suho explained how, after clearing the tower, he became curious about the unusual urgency from the association. Normally, they only asked for documents, not personal appearances. So, he looked into it himself and discovered that higher-ups often summoned hunters just to take photos. The team leader hesitated, trying to respond, but Suho interrupted kindly, saying honesty would have been enough. There was no need to hide something so simple. The team leader apologized, but Suho made it clear he didn't want an apology. He had already come knowing everything. In fact, he felt grateful. In situations like these, people often faced baseless suspicions or were dragged away without notice. But his team leader had handled things reasonably and respectfully. The team leader tried to downplay it, saying it was just for a staged photo. Suho then mentioned that he was planning to visit the association soon, which surprised the team leader. While enjoying his meal with a smile, Suho said he had reasons to be thankful and believed building good relations with high-ranking officials might be beneficial. When Suho asked how to arrange the schedule, the nervous team leader thanked him and suggested they talk after eating, promising to set it up right away. As he stood to take action, Suho smiled and teased him for being so efficient. With that, the scene transitioned. At the Hunter Association building, a photo was shown featuring Suho standing between two men. One of them was identified as Jang Kyung-hwan, the president of the Korea Hunter Association. He expressed his honor in taking a picture with Suho and thanked him for making time despite his busy schedule and rising fame. The other man in the photo was Park Kyuman, vice president of the association. He complimented Suho's talent, remarking how rare it was to meet someone like him. Suho responded politely, but in his thoughts he found their behavior distasteful. Even after all this time, nothing had changed. He still disliked them. President Jang asked if Suho's goal as a hunter was to join the Korea Hunter Association. Suho confirmed, repeating what he had said during his hunter exam interview, that he was a gate orphan and wished to end the gates and help humanity. President Jang praised his cooperative nature. Meanwhile, Suho's inner thoughts revealed his true intention. While he did want to contribute to humanity, he also wanted to stop President Jang from further ruining the organization. To him, Jang was nothing more than a political puppet, a former 5-term congressman who climbed to the top by exploiting the system. Suho silently vowed to remove him before his term ended. Vice President Park then chimed in, calling Suho admirable for not being swayed by material rewards and wanting to prevent more corrupt individuals from rising. Suho, recognizing him as Park Kyuman, forced a smile. Park continued, saying Suho had grown strong and righteous and that his parents in heaven would be proud. Suho thanked him politely while masking his discomfort. Suho reflected again, realizing it was these two who orchestrated his involvement. Park, a flatterer whose goal was to gain the favor of the president, had helped push Suho into unnecessary challenges at the gate. Suho quietly resolved to make sure they wouldn't be able to repeat those actions. President Jang then asked Suho which department he wanted to work in if he joined the association. Suho stated he had researched various departments and preferred the gate department. President Jang understood the reasoning, saying the department had priority access to gates and often led raids. He acknowledged it as the most dangerous department but suitable for someone of Suho's caliber. Vice President Park agreed, emphasizing that someone with Suho's skills should indeed be placed in such a role. President Jang then turned to the team leader and asked him to show their sincerity towards Suho. Confused, the team leader asked what he meant by sincerity. Jang clarified, they should offer Suho 1 or 2 gates from the many the association owned. The team leader hesitated, explaining that all those gates were either sealed or hard difficulty. But Suho, with a confident smile, welcomed the challenge, stating that sealed or hard gates were even better for him. The team leader grew increasingly anxious, clearly unsettled by Suho's bold proposal. Suho, on the other hand, brimmed with excitement, declaring his desire to conquer hostile gates that threatened humanity. His intense enthusiasm brought a wide smile to President Jang's face, who applauded Suho's ambition and quickly agreed with the plan. But the team leader suddenly shouted in protest, prompting the president to calmly ask what the issue was. The question left the team leader speechless. President Jang reminded him that he had already decided to assign the gate to Suho. Hesitantly, the team leader tried to object, but before he could finish, President Jang locked eyes with him and firmly asked what the problem was. Unable to argue further, the team leader lowered his gaze and softly agreed to prepare the gate. President Zhang, now even more pleased, turned to Suho and confirmed that he would be granted a gate. Suho responded with gratitude, his face lit with determination. Despite the room's celebratory tone, the team leader stood silently, disheartened. Suho, noticing his gloom, added that he would credit the president during the interview after the raid. Encouraged by this, President Zhang promised full support in tackling the sealed gate issue and asked for the vice president's agreement. The vice president quickly backed the decision, stating that this was how the association operated. The team leader, still dismayed, reflected to himself with rising frustration. He couldn't believe that sealed gates were being handed out like toys. To him, this proved how little non-awakened officials understood their true danger. Sealed gates were lethal, high-difficulty zones that often resulted in massive casualties. That's why the government managed them directly. He was furious that they were sending a rookie to what essentially amounted to a hunter's graveyard, as if just to get him killed. Though the anger burned inside him, he knew he was powerless to stop it. Suho caught the flash of emotion on the team leader's face and silently acknowledged his frustration. Suho understood the risks of a sealed gate as well. As he noticed the vice president whispering something into President Zhang's ear, his thoughts turned darker. He realized that to the leaders of the association, unless it involved the budget, they didn't care how many hunters died. As long as the raid succeeded, the benefits to the association outweighed any sacrifices. President Zhang then turned back to Suho, asking about his civil service exam plans. Suho answered that he intended to take the Level 5 exam by the end of the year. Hearing this, President Zhang remarked that the Level 5 exam was quite difficult, but Suho explained that aiming higher would allow him to do more. He had also been considering joining a guild for experience. The vice president agreed, noting that prior experience was preferred. However, he pointed out that guilds typically had contract periods. Suho acknowledged this concern. He wanted to learn practical skills, but most contracts were binding. If he could find a place flexible enough to suit his goals, he intended to work there temporarily before taking the exam. President Zhang responded supportively, saying that finding such a place would be ideal. Hearing this, Suho felt reassured. If the president himself supported it, even if he didn't join Nexus, it wouldn't reflect badly on him. This conversation also opened a chance to create a natural connection between Nexus and the association. Just then, a voice from outside announced the arrival of Pi Seong-yeol. The name surprised Suho, instantly grabbing his attention. President Zhang called out to let him in, saying his timing was perfect. Confused, Seong-yeol stepped into the room, joking about the president enjoying something delicious without him again. As he entered, he noticed Suho sitting there, his face showing clear surprise. Suho also stared back, recognizing him instantly. With a strange smile, Seong-yeol commented on the unexpected guest. As Seong-yeol turned to leave, he paused and said he would return another time. But the president insisted, urging him to come in and say hello. Giving in, Seong-yeol stepped forward. The president introduced Suho as the hunter who conquered the Tower of Challenge. Surprised, Seong-yeol recognized the name and grew excited, expressing how honored he felt to meet such a renowned figure. He introduced himself as Pi Seong-yeol from the Special Forces Unit and extended his hand. Suho shook hands with him, introducing himself in return. With a cheerful tone, Seong-yeol mentioned reading many articles about Suho and complimented his strong handshake. Suho responded modestly, appreciating the kind words. Seong-yeol then invited Suho to take a seat. As Suho sat down, he quietly thought to himself that meeting Seong-yeol wasn't something he had particularly wanted, yet the encounter had happened anyway. The vice president joined the conversation, addressing Chief Pai and highlighting that Suho was reportedly applying for the Level 5 civil service exam. Taken aback, Seong-yeol noted the difficulty of the exam. Suho responded with a light smile, acknowledging the challenge but stating his intent to try nonetheless. The vice president further explained that if Suho received a sealed gate from the association, he planned to challenge it. Seong-yeol looked visibly concerned, questioning whether Suho truly understood what a sealed gate was. Internally, Suho found Seong-yeol's expression unsettling, but he calmly confirmed that he was well aware of the risks involved. Accepting Suho's determination, Seong-yeol wished him success. Suho noted in his thoughts that Pi Seong-yeol, always on the lookout for talent, was probably worried about losing someone valuable to a meaningless death. Seong-yeol added that he also hoped Suho would do well on the civil service exam and promised to take good care of him if he ever joined the Special Forces Unit. The vice president chuckled, pointing out that Chief Pai was already making the first move, even though Suho had already set his sights on the gate department. Surprised, Seong-yeol asked why, to which the vice president replied that Suho's dream was to end all gates, and he planned to use the gate priority pass. Understanding the situation, Seong-yeol responded that the Special Forces Unit could also support such a goal. He then turned to the team leader, asking for his confirmation. The team leader replied with slight hesitation but agreed. Seong-yeol went on to say that if Suho passed the Level 5 exam, his relationship with team leader Jung might become complicated. He suggested discussing further details after the exam and sincerely wished Suho success. Suho thanked him, promising to live up to their expectations. In his thoughts, Suho reflected on how sly Seong-yeol was, subtly mentioning that passing the exam would place Suho above Chulman Hyung, creating an awkward situation. Suho wasn't surprised, knowing this wasn't the first time Seong-yeol had used such tactics. The president then brought the meeting to a close, thanking Suho and explaining that he had other matters to attend to. He suggested Suho continue the sealed gate discussion with team leader Young. Suho expressed his gratitude and agreed. In the next scene, Suho and team leader Young walked out of the meeting room. Suho quickly noticed how visibly downcast the team leader looked. Observing this, Suho asked if he was worried about what was said earlier. Young admitted he was, acknowledging Suho's skills, but stressing that the sealed gate was too dangerous for someone so promising. He offered to speak with the president and help Suho grow in a safer environment. Suho appreciated his concern, but Young emphasized that he was serious. He explained that Suho might not fully understand yet since he hadn't been a hunter for long, but the sealed gate was incredibly dangerous. He reminded Suho that the government had its reasons for managing it separately. Suho responded calmly, saying he was aware of that, and also knew that sealed gates were rarely assigned to large guilds due to safety concerns. This answer surprised Young, who asked why Suho would still take the risk. With firm confidence, Suho replied that he believed in himself. He reassured Young that what he feared wouldn't happen. He then mentioned a specific sealed gate managed by the association, the one called Nameless Sword. Young confirmed it, noting how troublesome that gate had been in the past. Suho, now smiling, said he knew the strategy to conquer it. At Yeongju's Nameless Sword Gate Square, Suho and Jinwi arrived at a secured military facility. A soldier asked Suho to wait, and he acknowledged with a calm nod. Observing the atmosphere, Jinwi remarked on the tension in the air. Suho explained that despite being under the association's control, the place remained a military base, which explained the strict environment. Their attention shifted as two military officers greeted each other in a formal manner nearby. One of them approached Suho, introducing himself as Major Kim Jong-gu, the person in charge of the square. Suho greeted the major with equal formality. Kim Jong-gu then informed them that team leader Young Chulman was already waiting at the square and asked them to follow. As they began moving toward the square, Jinwi pointed ahead and asked about the location, to which Kim Jong-gu confirmed. Suho observed the structure and noted its unique material. Kim Jong-gu elaborated, explaining that the walls were built using super alloys and iron to trap monsters emerging from the gate and to suppress gate shock. Jinwi, impressed by the scale of the construction, mentioned that it was larger than he expected and grew more intriguing the closer they got. Suho commented on the strong security measures preventing easy access to the gate. Upon reaching the square, Kim Jong-gu announced Suho's arrival to team leader Young Chulman. The team leader welcomed Suho warmly, appreciating the effort it must have taken to reach there. Suho smiled and asked when the team leader had arrived. Young Chulman replied that he had just arrived as well. Noticing Jinwi, the team leader inquired about him. Jinwi introduced himself as Jo Jin-hui, a reporter from PBS. They shook hands and the team leader, surprised, asked about a reporter's presence. Suho explained that Jinwi was only there to take photos after the raid and asked if that would be acceptable. The team leader assured him that the place wasn't too secretive and had no objection, though he was surprised Suho had brought a reporter himself. Jinwi grinned and expressed his excitement, asking the team leader to remember his face as they'd likely meet often. Slightly nervous, the team leader agreed. Kim Jong-gu then mentioned he had heard that Suho would be leading the raid. Suho confirmed. Curious, Jong-gu asked about Suho's level. Suho answered that he was level 51. This surprised and slightly concerned Jong-gu, but he responded with a reserved nod. He then informed Suho that the interior of the square had been prepared and he could enter immediately. He also warned that the door would be sealed once Suho was inside. Suho thanked him and acknowledged the instructions. As Suho moved closer to the gate, the team leader called out to him. Suho responded and the team leader asked if he truly understood the strategy. Suho confirmed confidently. Still puzzled, the team leader wondered how Suho could be so certain. Suho replied vaguely, saying it was difficult to explain in detail. Their conversation left Kim Jong-gu completely confused. Suho then clarified to the team leader that this situation could be viewed like conquering the Tower of Challenge. More importantly, he asked the team leader to support him in future gate conquests if this one was successful. The team leader agreed and asked him to return safely. Suho assured him that an hour would be enough. Shocked, the team leader repeated the time in disbelief. Without hesitation, Suho turned toward the gate and promised to see them soon. Suho moved toward the gate, drawing the attention of team leader Jong-gu and Jinwi. Observing him, Jinwi was taken aback, realizing Suho had already entered. The team leader appeared concerned but admitted that from this point onward, they could only trust him and wait. Jong-gu expressed his worry, questioning if Suho would truly be alright. He then pointed out that this wasn't a place where one could rely solely on high stats or level. He also noted that Suho was technically a healer, but Jinwi dismissed that as an issue entirely. Curious, Jong-gu asked what he meant, prompting Jinwi to smile and reveal that Suho was a healer only in name. Confused, Jong-gu repeated the phrase. The team leader then confirmed it, explaining that he had never seen anyone wield a sword as skillfully as Suho. Jong-gu questioned if Suho was really that impressive, and the team leader began recalling Suho's hunter exam. Despite taking the healer-specific practical test, Suho had defeated all the assigned monsters using just a sword and passed the exam. Even Jinwei was surprised, wondering if such a method was allowed. The team leader admitted he was shocked at first too, but since Suho had protected the patients from the monsters until the very end, it was considered valid. Hearing this, both Jinwei and Jonggu were left astonished. Jonggu remarked that Suho seemed to have a deep understanding of swordsmanship. He then realized that the reason Suho entered this gate might be linked to that. The team leader confirmed it. This was the Nameless Sword Gate. Inside the gate, a system message appeared before Suho's eyes. The gate was titled Nameless Sword. It stated that anyone could enter, but only one person was allowed inside at a time. Suho had now officially stepped into its domain. Suho walked through a dense forest inside the gate, thinking back to how difficult it had been to clear this place in the past. He remembered barely surviving each time. Just then, he noticed a shadowy figure ahead. A system window appeared, revealing the presence of a boss monster. Nameless Swordsman. Suho immediately drew his sword, ready to fight. A bright light radiated from the Nameless Swordsman, and another system message appeared. The Nameless Swordsman activates the battlefield. While the battlefield is active, the status window of the Nameless Swordsman matches that of the challenger. All combatants within the area can only use swords and swordsmanship. No other weapons or skills allowed. Suho recognized the figure and acknowledged the Nameless Swordsman. The boss charged forward with immense speed, launching a powerful attack. Suho blocked it using his own sword. He counterattacked, sending the Nameless Swordsman flying back. Analyzing the technique, Suho noted the opponent's excellent footwork. The swordsman had twisted his body to reduce the impact from the blow. Suho understood that someone like this couldn't be defeated with just modern swordsmanship. The swordsman recovered his stance, and Suho realized that after just one exchange, his opponent had already changed tactics. He was preparing a new form of swordsmanship to counter Suho's style, constantly pressuring him with unpredictable movements. As the swordsman advanced again, Suho acknowledged the real danger. This enemy could adapt to any opponent mid-battle. Suho dodged another attack and noted how much he had learned from this swordsman in his past life. Suho launched another strike, sending the swordsman flying once again. This time, he taunted the boss for being surprised that his strategy had failed. The Nameless Swordsman remained silent. Suho remembered that he never spoke, not even in the past, not even on the day he died. Suho closed the distance and launched a direct strike, hitting the boss's gauntlet. Reflecting on his past battles, Suho revealed that he had fought this opponent 7 times in his previous life. He attacked again, but the swordsman retaliated. Suho dodged and struck the swordsman's leg, then followed up with a strong kick to the chest, sending him crashing to the ground. As he approached, Suho remembered how many people were curious about what lay inside the armor. He recalled his disappointment the first time he looked inside. Despite the praise the Nameless Swordsman received, being called a Sword King or a legendary warrior, Suho knew the truth. The figure was nothing more than the ghost of a sword demon. Slowly, the swordsman began to rise again. One of his legs, once hidden beneath the armor, was now visibly missing. Suho advanced again to attack, his sword clashing fiercely against the Nameless Swordsman's blade. The clash of steel echoed as the Nameless Swordsman launched a powerful strike, but Suho dodged swiftly. Seizing the moment, Suho struck at the swordsman's chest from below. For a brief instant, Suho pulled back, then surged forward once more, confident in his technique. He declared that his swordsmanship, the Guardian Sword technique, was specifically designed to counter evasive maneuvers like these. Knowing his opponent's footwork meant defeat was impossible, even if the enemy returned from the dead. With those words, Suho's blade sliced the Nameless Swordsman in two, cutting him down the middle. He relentlessly attacked again, severing the swordsman into multiple parts until the opponent finally fell defeated. The system window flashed a message. The Nameless Swordsman has been killed. You have conquered the gate. The MVP is Suho. Suho quietly acknowledged the fallen swordsman, expressing gratitude for the brief encounter. He admitted that without this battle, his swordsmanship would not have improved so drastically. Thanks to the Nameless Swordsman, he earned the title of Sword God and rose to world-class status. He promised to remember the swordsman occasionally on Teacher's Day. Another system message appeared, announcing additional experience points awarded for being the MVP. Suho leveled up, with all stats increased, gaining 1 bonus stat. As a reward for conquering a hard gate, the system granted 5 more bonus stats. Looking at the Nameless Swordsman's sword, Suho noted it was a ghostly blade without blood or shadows, so he could not absorb its essence. Still, he picked it up, thinking that the sword alone was enough to fulfill his purpose. He examined it carefully, then broke a piece off. At that moment, the system window displayed a new message. The Nameless Sword has been used. Activating the understanding of the sword. A glowing light began to flow towards Suho. The system updated with another message. The soul of the Nameless Sword infused into your swordsmanship. The information of the Guardian Sword has changed. A detailed message followed, describing the Guardian Sword as an S+ grade unique swordsmanship created by Suho. It praised its excellent balance of attack, defense, and evasion, all while adhering to the basics. The fixed grade had been enhanced to a plus grade with the infusion of the Nameless Sword's soul, granting infinite growth potential and embracing the will of the nameless sword. In his mind, Suho declared that his swordsmanship truly began now. The scene shifted to Jonggu, the team leader, and Jinwei. Jinwei noted the unusual quiet. The team leader expressed trust in Suho but warned that given the opponent, it might take some time. Jinwei reminded them it had only been 30 minutes. Jonggu said he would go patrol for a bit, to which the team leader agreed. Suddenly, Jinwei exclaimed in surprise. Jonggu asked what was wrong. Jinwei nervously revealed that the gate had been conquered. Suho emerged from the gate, and seeing Jinwei and the team leader rushing toward him in tears, he told them to calm down. Jinwei struggled to calm himself, insisting it was impossible to stay calm. The team leader explained the nameless sword caused over 200 casualties and asked if Suho was hurt. Suho laughed, showing he was fine, calling it nothing. Jonggu doubted it was nothing. Suho repeated that it was easy. Jonggu, puzzled, wondered silently what kind of person Suho was to find the nameless sword, that deadly, so easy to conquer. Suho laughed and suggested taking a photo since they had conquered the gate. Jonggu was a little surprised. The team leader laughed and said the photo was for submission to the public office and invited them to join. Jonggu hesitated, saying it was difficult for him to casually take photos as a soldier. The team leader insisted the photo was needed to prove that Hunter Suho conquered the sealed gate, suggesting Jonggu join to add credibility. Frustrated but understanding, Jonggu agreed. Jinwei excitedly announced the photo setup was ready, urging everyone to come quickly. Jonggu confirmed. The next scene showed the team leader speaking to the leader of Nexus. He explained over the phone that he had conquered the sealed gate named Nameless Sword. He introduced the people in the photo as association officials and Major Kim Jong-gu, the head of the square. He introduced Jinwei as a PBS reporter, the exclusive reporter for Hunter Suho. Since they took the photos together, there was no chance of manipulation. Jinwei smiled and handed over his card, greeting the leader of Nexus. The vice leader of Nexus, slightly uneasy, said no business card was needed and that he never suspected manipulation. The leader of Nexus asked Suho how he managed to do it. Suho asked what exactly he meant. The leader clarified, asking how Suho obtained the entrance ticket for the sealed gate and conquered it so quickly, reminding him that over 200 hunters had died inside. Suho explained briefly that he met the president of the association to obtain the entrance ticket and simply went in and conquered it. The leader of Nexus was very surprised. Suho insisted he was telling the truth without any exaggeration. The leader asked again how it was possible. Suho smiled and said that now that his abilities were proven, it was time to draw up the contract. He stated he only had two conditions: full support while he was in Nexus, and termination of his exclusive contract if he passed the civil service exam. He added that he had already informed the president of the association and that many guilds had contacted him, but he intended to gain practical experience only with a guild that understood his situation. The leader of Nexus laughed at these conditions and agreed to proceed. He called his secretary to bring the documents, and the secretary replied promptly. The guild leader said he was so surprised by Suho's immediate proof of ability that he was left speechless. He warned Suho to brace himself for many tasks ahead. They shook hands, and Suho confidently replied to leave everything to him. Suho noticed Jinwei's car as soon as he arrived. Suho mentioned that since Jinwei had driven here, he didn't mind driving back. Jinwei replied that it was no problem at all, as this was something a manager should do. Suho, curious, asked about the manager role. Jinwei laughed and explained that since Suho regularly provided exclusive press materials, if he felt any shame, he should at least work overtime as a manager. Jinwei added that driving a sedan was convenient, unlike a van that shook constantly. He mentioned having bought a new sedan and that it seemed he would keep driving sedans from now on. Suho, surprised, asked if Jinwei had bought another car. Jinwei confirmed and said he had picked one for Suho as well, calling him Mr. On Pro. Suho expressed amazement and thought to himself that Jinwei was definitely born with a silver spoon. Suho then asked Jinwei if it was okay for him to have been absent from work all day. Jinwei laughed and explained that several exclusive articles had come up, and he was going to take Suho to cover them, so there was no need to worry. Suho acknowledged this. Jinwei suggested starting their reporting from the sealed gate attack. He said that normally they would begin with Nexus membership and work upward, but since it was uncertain how long public interest would last, they should start with the most attention-grabbing story. Suho agreed and said to proceed in whatever way was most convenient. Jinwei then said there was something he wanted to ask Suho, how he had become so sure about the Nameless Sword strategy. Suho responded that there was a certain pattern in the Nameless Sword. Jinwei explained that he had heard the reputation of the Sword King, meaning the battle had to be fought purely with swordsmanship. Jinwei laughed and admitted that he had been confident because he believed his own swordsmanship was superior to the Sword King's. Suho reacted in shock. Suho explained that during the battle he did feel experience played a role, but he also took great pride in his swordsmanship. Jinwei pointed out that the Sword King was a swordsman who had killed over 200 people, including ranker-level swordsmen. Suho replied that the Sword King's skill perfectly replicated the opponent's status window, meaning his physical state was equal to that of ranker-level swordsmen. Jinwei noted that the Sword King's core attack method relied purely on swordsmanship rather than item effects or skills, so the key was how outstanding one's pure ability was. He asked Suho if he had a swordsmanship skill. Suho said he did, and it was S rank. It was a creation type skill, so it wasn't listed among his usual abilities. Jinwei became visibly troubled and lowered his head. Suho, noticing this, asked what was wrong. Jinwei suddenly shouted in shock and surprise, asking since when Suho had obtained the S-rank swordsmanship. Suho felt slightly awkward and said it hadn't been that long ago. Jinwei noticed a flame surrounding Suho and commented on it. Suho then shifted the topic, saying that the news should be released periodically in order since people wouldn't stay excited forever without breaks. He told Jinwei to ask anytime if he was curious about anything, promising to tell him everything. Jinwei said Suho really had a talent for driving people crazy and mentioned that the day had come when he had to personally promote a person. He thanked Suho again for calling him first and apologized for not believing him immediately. Suho laughed it off. Jinwei asked if Suho's schedule for the day was finished. Suho replied that he should rest for now. Jinwei said he would drop Suho home and told him to get plenty of rest. Suho thanked him. The scene shifted to Suho and Jinwei arriving at their apartment. Suho entered his room and thought about how much he liked the stat he had gained. Considering how much he had been running around, it was surprising he wasn't tired. He thought about checking his status window and saw that he had received a bonus of 7 stars. He realized he had 7 points left, which was enough for that. He wondered if he should try getting the so-called unified trait. Looking at the system window, Suho recited the conditions silently in his mind. First, all stats except one had to be of the same rank. Second, all stats of the same rank must have identical values. Third, when a lower-ranked stat was upgraded to match the unified rank, at least one bonus stat point must be available. Fourth, when all conditions were met, the system confirmed with a message. The message congratulated him, stating that all stat ranks had been upgraded to red rank. The unified trait was now granted by fulfilling specific conditions, and all remaining stat points would be used to unify the values of all colored stats. After seeing his status, Suho felt relaxed and thought that he finally got the trait. He admitted he hadn't even known it existed before, so he had never thought of trying it. Now that he had done it, it actually felt good. Suho lay down on his bed and thought that he would continue to manage his stats well. Just then, his phone rang. The caller was Yeonhwa. Suho answered, saying it had been a while and that she had called at the perfect time when he was in a good mood. Yeonhwa said he seemed to have a lot of free time. Suho denied it and told her to stop talking so formally. Yeonhwa mentioned she had seen the article. Suho was surprised the article was already out and admitted he hadn't checked the comments yet. Yeonhwa laughed and suggested meeting up first, calling Suho sir. Suho relaxed and said that meeting up was all he needed to hear. Yeonhwa shouted that they hadn't accepted his offer yet. Suho replied that if they didn't want to, they could forget it and he didn't mind at all. Yeonhwa was shocked and silent, so Suho asked what her answer was. Yeonhwa responded by asking what they should do from now on. Suho said he would tell her after they met tomorrow and told her to come to Nexus Academy in Paju by 1 o'clock. Yeonhwa complained it was a bit troublesome because 2 team members were working professionals, making daytime difficult, and she also had lectures. Suho admitted that he must have misjudged her and said she didn't seem that desperate so she could keep living as she was. Yeonhwa yelled at Suho but finally agreed she would go and see him at Nexus Academy at 1 o'clock. Suho laughed and said he would see her tomorrow. Yeonhwa said she would hang up. The next morning, Suho was joined by Yeonhwa and some others who had come at his call. Yeonhwa exclaimed that she had not taken her days off because of him, but it just so happened that today was the day she wanted to rest. Suho asked who had said that. Yeonhwa, irritated, asked why he had called them. Suho addressed everyone and said he would tell them immediately that they were going to die by his hands today. Suho's attitude made everyone around him very nervous. Then, handing out a form, he told them to fill it out first. Yeonhwa looked scared as she read the form, realizing it was a waiver of bodily rights. Then, seeing the list of possessed skills, she understood they had to write down their personal information. Suho explained that when he joined the Special Forces unit, he would need people to work for him. He said he needed a shadow and that he would never choose just anyone for that role. As he started to leave, Suho warned them that he was going to train them to death, from basic combat to maximizing their skills. He reminded them that player information was only visible to the player, so they must be honest. Trust was essential, especially since he had already revealed his secret to them. Hearing all this, the group became very worried and glanced at each other nervously. The next scene shifted to the Nexus Academy training room. Suho was training the 4 of them and declared that training was about to start. Suddenly, the narration took a flashback to Director Kim handing Suho a black card, explaining that it allowed him to use all Nexus facilities without charge. The training room was exclusive for S rank and higher. Director Kim also mentioned preparing guest cards and brought up the possibility of Suho meeting a powerful hunter. Back in the present, Suho held the card and thought about how focused he had been on Banshee and himself that he almost forgot the meeting arranged while he was in the training room. Then, addressing Yeonhwa and her companions, Suho said they would start with this training. The scene transitioned smoothly as Suho and the group entered another world called Kunlun. Suho welcomed everyone and explained that from now on, they would train there whenever possible. Seeing the 4 below level 50, Suho thought it was perfect to design the training as he wished. Yeonhwa asked what kind of training they would undergo. Suho stated it would obviously be combat training. He warned that reckless use of their current skills would only get them caught by the Special Forces. He questioned if they really thought the Special Forces could be fooled by shallow skills. Hearing this, the group became angry, and Yeonhwa confidently said that if the plan was perfect, ditching the Special Forces would be easy. Suho teased her, reminding her that she got caught by him and that there was no such thing as a perfect crime, especially in a world dominated by the powerful. This made Yeonhwa very angry, but Suho continued, saying they needed to become strong enough to take care of themselves and, more importantly, to protect their comrades. He snapped his fingers, and swords appeared above each of their heads, telling them to choose one. Yeonhwa picked a sword and asked why they had to choose swords. Suho explained that people had been calling him the sword god lately. He showed his sword and said that since he was an exceptional swordsman, they would learn swordsmanship. He warned that skill usage was prohibited during training to improve sword skills and made sure they knew they couldn't use skills for this. Taking his position, Suho challenged them to do their best to kill him, declaring that as their first goal. The four picked up their swords and prepared to fight. Suho immediately went for one of them and cut his throat, shocking Yeonhwa deeply. Suho scolded her, asking if she really had time to be shocked, and then attacked Yeonhwa too. The group was terrified, as if the attacks were real. Suho reminded them that since they had died at least once in practical training, they shouldn't freeze up now. Encouraged, he invited them to attack him again. During the fight, one boy tried to block Suho's attack with his sword but was no match for Suho's speed. Suho taunted them, saying even his grandma was faster. He then kicked one opponent's ankle, sending him falling onto another. Suho mocked that the fallen man couldn't even dodge the attack and reminded him he claimed to be a middle school teacher. He asked what he would do if he was slower than the kids he taught. One of the boys trembled and claimed he had taken the hit on purpose. Suho replied that even the excuse was worse than a middle schooler's. The boy clenched his fist, thinking he needed to shut Suho's mouth somehow. 3 boys charged at Suho together, yelling to die. Suho thought that this mental toughness was exactly what they needed to avoid freezing in a real gate battle. An explosion happened as they attacked together, and they thought they had defeated Suho, but when they saw him unharmed, they were stunned. Suho told them that just because they were his shadows didn't mean he expected them to quietly gather intelligence in the dark. They needed to handle gates on their own. He stood above their swords and declared that pushing them to their limits until near death was how warriors were made. Then a fierce fight broke out between Suho and the 4. After a long battle, Suho said he wished to keep training them but was busy. He told them to keep training until they logged out themselves. The 3 boys were surprised, and Yeonhwa asked if he was really leaving suddenly. A close-up of Suho appeared as he reassured them not to worry, saying a clone with his abilities would take care of them. Then, demanding more, he asked what they were staring at and ordered them to start attacking. The 4 grew furious, their inner fire igniting. Each thought to themselves they just wanted to land at least one hit on him. Suho left his clone to handle them and stepped away from the training machine, deciding that the Banshee training was enough for now. Suddenly, Director Kim called. Suho picked up and was told that his official recruitment article had been published as planned about an hour ago. Suho confirmed it was through reporter Jo Jin-hui. Director Kim explained that the reporter published the exclusive first, and then the PR team distributed the press materials. Suho said that was good and asked if they should prepare a follow-up press release. Director Kim was surprised at how soon, and Suho explained that the public backlash must be intense. After the hunter exam, he had said his dream was to become a civil servant hunter but suddenly joined a private guild. The hate comments must be pouring in. Director Kim assured him that if everything went as planned, public opinion would turn in his favor, so there was no need to worry about negative comments. Suho thought to himself that he had not officially announced he would take the Level 5 civil service exam at the end of the year, but he did not intend to keep it a secret forever. He told Director Kim he would share everything once it was finalized, and said he had another call coming, so he would hang up now. The next call was from Jo Jin-hui, who greeted him. Suho addressed him as Reporter Joe. The reporter asked what was going on, and Suho said he heard the article about his joining Nexus had been published and public opinion was heating up. It was time to drive the nail in with a follow-up report. Suho planned the title, The Second Sealed Gate. He was preparing to challenge the Swamp of Despair. News of Suho joining Nexus was broadcast everywhere. Suho watched it on his phone, feeling satisfied, thinking those were exactly the reactions he expected. Soon, the exhausted team leader arrived. Seeing him, Suho asked about the approval of the entry permit for the Swamp of Despair. The team leader replied that he had just been scolded about it on the way. Recalling the rude words of President Jiang, the leader grew worried and said that if the gate was being cleared for that reason, it seemed anyone might now enter any sealed gate smoothly. Suho comforted him, giving credit to the team leader's efforts. Then the leader mentioned seeing Suho earlier with the Nexus PR team, asking if the discussions with the association president had been settled. Suho explained that contract details were not publicly disclosed, but most conditions from the president's office were included. When asked about his plans, Suho confirmed he would take the Level 5 civil service exam at the end of the year, sharing this as a secret only with the team leader. The leader smiled, promising to keep it confidential. Suho found the leader's cute reaction amusing. The leader then suggested they head out to clear the gate. The scene shifted to the S-rank sealed gate. Swamp of Despair. Suho stood before another gate, preparing to enter. Meanwhile, Jinwei and the team leader monitored Suho on screen. Jinwei named the gate and worried if Suho would be alright. Jinwei proposed a bet on Suho's success, wagering 1,000,000 won. Another member accepted the bet, putting the same amount on failure. The team leader watched the screen intensely until suddenly shouting that the gate was disappearing. Jinwei was surprised but quickly realized that meant Suho had successfully cleared the gate. In panic, Jinwei asked how long Suho had been inside. The leader was stunned to hear it had only been 5 minutes. The story flashed back 5 minutes to when Suho first entered the gate. Inside, he saw a staircase flanked by countless demon corpses. He reflected on the gate's trial. No level or entry restrictions existed, but no one had ever returned alive. Monsters didn't spawn. Climbing the stairs itself was the trial, filled with terrifying mental traps. Suho understood the strategy clearly. Equip a high-level mental protection skill or item. Without it, the stairs would consume anyone in endless fear and despair, killing them. Those who died became statues lining the stairs. He saw many unconscious bodies on the stairs. Before this knowledge, the gate was called the Swamp of Despair because no one returned, as if trapped in a swamp. After the gate was conquered, the trial was understood as the stairs themselves being the swamp. Suho thought it didn't concern him since he had absolute immunity to mental debuffs. Suddenly, his system showed a message. He stepped onto the stairs and would feel deep despair. His Dragon Blood skill activated, preventing mental contamination thanks to the Dragon Armor's tolerant effect. This confirmed to Suho that the Swamp of Despair was nothing more than a walk in the park for him, explaining why he chose it as his second target gate. Ignoring the demons, Suho advanced up the stairs. As he progressed, he noticed fewer statues, meaning few had made it that far. Even if he cleared the place, he couldn't save those who died. He recalled the story of the martial artist Ascetic, who had attempted to clear the gate before. Thanks to his mental immunity, he endured the trial for hundreds of days but couldn't save anyone, as the statues crumbled to dust when touched. Suho silently vowed to free those souls by clearing the gate. System messages appeared, announcing him as MVP of the gate, granting bonus experience and stat points for solo conquering a gate no one else could clear. He leveled up, earning additional rewards. Suho asked for the final reward item, and the system granted him the Ring of Emotions, a treasure unique to the Swamp of Despair. The ring allowed the wearer to see and absorb the strongest emotions emitted by targets, storing positive or negative energy to transfer later. Suho noted this ring was once possessed by Ascetic, who used it to refine himself and help countless people suffering emotional pain before it was stolen by villains. He was determined not to let that happen again. Wearing the ring, Suho touched the ground, releasing an aura that was absorbed by the ring. It quickly reached maximum black energy capacity, which wouldn't be enough to purify all the stairs, but it was the only option. Suddenly, the system announced it was time to leave. Suho exited the gate where many reporters and cameramen eagerly photographed him. The team leader and Jinwei rushed to Suho, nervously bombarding him with questions. They marveled at his record time of 4 minutes and some seconds to clear the gate, which was deemed more dangerous than the nameless sword gate. They begged to know his secret. Suho calmed them down with a laugh, suggesting they first take a photo to handle PR before anything else. Both leader and Jinwei eagerly prepared. The scene shifted to the leader of Nexus, who was astonished hearing Suho had conquered the Swamp of Despair, known to be more dangerous than Nameless Sword, and within just 5 minutes. The leader admitted that while he knew Suho was incredible, this was beyond imagination, almost impossible to process. When asked what to do next, the leader said he would give orders at the right time and instructed his team to prepare materials and stand by. Suddenly, the leader received a call from an unknown number. He was surprised, but answered. On the other end was President Zhang Kyunghwan of the Hunter Association, greeting the leader warmly. After receiving the president's call, the leader was visibly surprised. In his mind, he guessed it must be because of Hunter An Suho. When asked if he should visit the association, the president welcomed the idea. The leader realized that taking down 2 sealed gates had stirred the association. Without justification or a reason to decline, he felt compelled to meet them. The team leader then suggested a meal instead, which the president accepted, saying he'd wait for the call. The leader confirmed he'd reach out soon. Just then, his secretary entered and mentioned something urgent. The guild leader, recognizing the timing, welcomed Secretary Kimigong's arrival. The scene then shifted to Jinwei and Suho. Suho arrived in Jinwei's car and stepped out. He thanked Jinwei for his effort and asked if he was heading straight to the broadcasting station. Jinwei confirmed, mentioning the standby article on the Swamp of Despair raid. He expressed his desire to go on a food tour with Suho next time, revealing his love for food writing. Suho agreed, looking forward to it. Jinwei drove away, leaving Suho, who glanced at the ring on his hand. He thought about the reporter's passion and how it helped him gather a lot of positive white energy. Soon after, Suho entered a restaurant where he was warmly welcomed. Inside, he saw the association president, the vice president, the Nexus guild leader, and even the special division chief gathered. Upon his arrival, the vice president acknowledged Suho as the guardian of South Korea. The president asked him to sit beside guild leader Bae, which Suho accepted with gratitude. As he sat, he noted the high-ranking figures at the table. Guild leader Bae Dong-hyuk, association president Jang Kyung-hwan, vice president Park Gyo-man, and special division chief P. Seong-yeol, and wondered what they were planning. The president began by congratulating Suho for clearing the notoriously difficult sealed gate in less than 5 minutes. He praised him as a treasure and the future of the country. Riding this momentum, the vice president proposed a toast in Suho's honor. Suho kept the toast simple, wishing success for everyone, and the group raised their drinks together. The president then brought up Suho's unique contract situation, commending guild leader Bae for not setting a contract period. The guild leader explained that although contracts usually last at least 3 years, Suho was different. Instead of restraining him with personal greed, he chose to support Suho's potential. The president, pleased with this mindset, noted how it aligned with the association's values and asked Suho for his opinion. Suho acknowledged that it was all thanks to guild leader Bae's consideration. Special Division Chief Seong-yeol expressed his excitement at the idea of Suho joining the association, believing Suho's presence would elevate both national security and prestige. Suddenly, the vice president laughed in a dramatic manner, announcing that the association president had decided to award Suho a special certificate of appreciation. Suho recognized in his mind that such a certificate was almost a guaranteed pass for the Level 5 civil service exam. Though embarrassed, he expressed his honor. The president chuckled, admitting the original plan was to reward Suho for his strategy in the nameless sword raid. But Suho had gone further by clearing another sealed gate. Suho thanked the president, crediting the rare sealed gate entry permit he had received and expressing his gratitude for the trust and opportunity. The president laughed heartily, praising Suho's modesty. With skill, appearance, and humility, he believed Suho lacked nothing. Seong-yeol then asked Suho to share how he had cleared the swamp of despair, noting that no one had ever returned alive from it. Suho remembered how, even in his past life, Pai Seong-yeol had shown deep curiosity about that place. He decided to keep the details vague. He explained that the swamp had no monsters, only a single staircase. Judging its danger from the first step, he chose to rely on his intellect. Instead of stepping directly, he used tools to move across. That strategy proved successful. Everyone was shocked. Seong-yeol noted that most hunters would have relied on mental resistance skills or items, but Suho had used a simpler method. Suho replied humbly, attributing it to simplicity and luck. The vice president then brought up Suho's level, revealing he wasn't even level 100. Suho stated he was currently level 53. This surprised Seong-yeol, who eagerly asked if Suho had gained a trait. Observing the ring's reaction, Suho sensed the group's rising interest, like hunters eyeing their prey. He explained that he was a healer, but due to his focus on swordsmanship, he had acquired the trait Path of the Sword. Seong-yeol commented that while the trait wasn't particularly special, it was certainly rare for a healer. Suho began to feel irritated as he listened. In his mind, he reflected that the Special Forces unit was filled with people possessing unusual traits, so his own abilities likely didn't impress them. Even though he already knew they saw him as nothing more than a hunting dog, it still left an unpleasant feeling. Composing himself, Suho clarified that his main skill was swordsmanship. However, due to the high risk of injury, he had no intention of neglecting his healing abilities. He said he would rely on guild leader Bae to help him grow as a healer. After all, hunters had short lifespans. Guild leader Bae responded with assurance, promising that Nexus would support him fully, since he would be venturing into many dangerous places. The association president joined in, smiling as he remarked on the high mortality rate of hunters. He added that private guilds were generally better at nurturing hunters than the association, and expressed hope that guild leader Bae would offer Suho strong support. Smiling back, guild leader Bae promised to give his best, especially since the request came from the association president. The president, still smiling, praised Bae and said that he himself would strive to act as a bridge between the association and Nexus, serving as a clear line of communication. Then, raising his glass, he proposed a toast. Seong-yeol turned to Suho and mentioned that as a field operative, he too could offer some help and hoped Suho would remember him. Hearing this collective show of support reassured Suho. With renewed determination, he stated that from now on, he would continue clearing not just sealed gates but every gate across Korea, all for the sake of the nation. The president, amused by Suho's ambition, laughed and praised his bold spirit. He then offered Suho another drink. As the meeting ended, it was already late at night. Suho and Seong-yeol stepped out of the restaurant to see off the president and guild leader. Standing outside, Seong-yeol asked Suho if he smoked. Suho replied that he didn't. Lighting a cigarette, Seong-yeol said he would just have one, as drinking always triggered a craving for cigarettes. Then, he handed Suho his business card, noting that things had been hectic last time, and he'd forgotten to give it earlier. He said it included his direct number and assured Suho he would always answer his calls, even if he ignored others. Suho, now holding the card, casually asked where Seong-yeol lived. Seong-yeol replied that his old home attracted too many people, so he was staying in a hotel for now. He remarked that in their country, as soon as someone became a little famous, people clung to them like obsessive fans. Suho observed that maybe such attention was just a sign of affection, but upon saying that, he noticed a shift in Seong-yeol's emotional aura. What was once pure white turned murky. That simple idea must have sounded ridiculous to Seong-yeol, who viewed non-awakeners as nothing more than pawns. And it wasn't just him. Most high-ranking officials like the president and vice president likely thought the same. Seong-yeol then reminded Suho that the Level 5 civil service exam was approaching at the end of the year. It was practically being tailored just for Suho, and he likely already knew that. Suho acknowledged that he was aware. Amused, Seong-yeol admitted he'd thought Suho was just being humble, but now saw another side of him. Suho laughed, saying he wasn't completely clueless. Hearing that, Seong-yeol suggested that since Suho would be joining the association anyway, they'd end up as senior and junior. So why not start their dynamic from now? Suho agreed, addressing him as senior. That made Seong-yeol burst into laughter. He told Suho that he liked his refreshing personality and wanted to say something important. When Suho gave him the go-ahead, Seong-yeol offered him a direct position in the Special Forces unit once he officially joined the association. With Suho's abilities, there would be no need to send him through other units first. He could appoint him there immediately. Hearing this, Suho silently celebrated in his mind, feeling like he had finally secured what he wanted. Suho calmly reflected on the situation. As expected, this was the reason he had stayed till the end. It was in line with his nature. Calculated, composed, and prepared. Whether it was by sending someone or by directly seeking help from a guild leader, the objective remained the same. Suho understood why this particular lake had become one of Seong-yeol's strongholds. Eventually, it had been claimed by one of his own trusted men. And now Suho was ready to go all in. He would let Seong-yeol use him as much as he wanted. With a subtle smile, Suho reassured him that he was fine with it. Seong-yeol raised an eyebrow and asked if he really meant it. Suho confirmed without hesitation, stating that everyone knew the unit was the core of the Hunter Association. Seong-yeol laughed, noting the ambition in Suho's eyes, something rare among recruits. He appreciated people with dreams, saying that those without them were nothing more than hollow shells. However, he pointed out that Suho had been close to Team Leader Jung from the Gate Management Unit. Suho clarified that he indeed had a good relationship with Team Leader Jung, but that didn't mean he couldn't foster solid ties with both Seong-yeol and the president. Among all, he wished to be closest to Seong-yeol, his senior. Curious, Seong-yeol asked why. Suho explained that one should always aim to be closest to their mentor or direct superior. The president was too far removed, and Team Leader Jung was someone he would only work with temporarily. It was Seong-yeol who mattered most in the long term. Placing a hand on Suho's shoulder, Seong-yeol chuckled. Despite his youth, Suho navigated social dynamics like someone living a second life. Suho accepted the compliment humbly and took the opportunity to express his interest in joining the Hunter Association through special recruitment. The mention of special recruitment made Seong-yeol pause in thought. Meanwhile, Suho contemplated silently. There was already an open recruitment happening, so technically, there was no need to bring up a special route, unless it helped sway opinions. Due to the ring of emotions, Seong-yeol's feelings had intensified beyond simple affection. According to the practitioner, this had now evolved into deep love. The white F effect wasn't permanent, but it was potent enough to create a favorable window of opportunity. Seong-yeol admitted that he hadn't realized Suho's interest and affection for the Hunter Association ran so deep. Suho responded firmly. His goal had never wavered. He had checked, but there didn't seem to be any plans for special recruitment this year. Seong-yeol agreed that such recruitments were rare, but with the right approach, it could be possible. Suho, realizing things were going his way, silently celebrated. He then praised Seong-yeol, calling him amazing as expected. Seong-yeol waved off the praise modestly. He explained that the final decision for special recruitment was in the hands of the higher-ups. However, if he submitted the request on behalf of the Special Forces unit, there might be a real chance. But he added a condition. If they were going to push for an unscheduled recruitment, they needed a definite game-changer. Something, or someone, like Suho. They needed solid proof that he was an indispensable asset to their team. Suho inquired if Seong-yeol was referring to gate raids. Even amid the manipulated emotions, Suho could see that Seong-yeol remained sharp and strategic. However, Seong-yeol revealed that although gate raids were essential, the Special Forces unit focused more on apprehending awakened criminals. Suho acknowledged that the Special Forces unit had the authority to investigate such individuals. Seong-yeol confirmed and elaborated further. These criminals were now referred to as villains. While he was aware of Suho's abilities, he emphasized that villain investigations were a completely different domain from gate raids. Capturing a well-known villain would leave a strong impression on the higher-ups, though he clarified that it wasn't mandatory. Suho agreed and asked if there was a specific target in mind. Seong-yeol replied that there wasn't. Suho could choose anyone from the current wanted list. Once the special recruitment was approved, he would be hired within a month or two. Suho gave a confident nod, assuring that he would capture one and prove his worth. Seong-yeol remarked that while most of his team was hesitant when dealing with fugitives, Suho didn't show even a hint of fear or doubt. As the conversation continued, they approached Seong-yeol's car. Before leaving, Seong-yeol told Suho he would be waiting. But behind that smile, something else stirred in Xiang Yul's mind. Internally, he gave an order: bring the swordsman. He tried to recall the name of the person who wielded the sword like a butcher. That was the one he wanted. He instructed someone to go and fetch him. With that, Xiang Yul left the scene. Suho watched him go, quietly reflecting. Swordsman, that was the title Xiang Yul had used for him before acknowledging his strength. After Suho had defeated the Sword King, Xiang Yul had started using his name, treating him with unexpected warmth. This shift was thanks to the Ring of Emotions. Although it was a hassle when Xiang Yul offered to fast-track his entry into the Hunter Association, Suho willingly played along. And it was perfect timing. The new recruits happened to be mixed with villains. Suho planned to use them as sacrifices to prove his worth. The next day, Suho returned to the same building where Seo Ji-won had been captured by thugs. Without hesitation, he hurled a brick toward the group, striking near them to provoke a reaction. The startled men grew furious and stormed outside to confront him. One of them demanded to know who he was, questioning if he was drunk or insane. Suho responded calmly with a smile. He wasn't drunk or mad. Instead, he exposed them. These were the ones stealing cryptocurrency wallets through unusual methods. He knew Seo Ji-won was being held there, the very man they had detained. Hearing this, the four men grew tense and began whispering among themselves. One questioned how Suho knew. Another asked if he was a cop. The third suggested catching him regardless of who he was, but the last one warned them not to mess with the police. It could make things worse. Yet, with their cover blown, they agreed they had to silence Suho before things escalated further. Listening in, Suho smirked to himself. He could hear everything. These pathetic villains didn't realize what they were walking into. If they could catch him, he'd consider recruiting them. Without wasting time, Suho summoned his shadow and used its chains to seize one of the men. The others rushed to attack, but Suho swiftly dodged. He countered using his blood weapon, striking one and sending him crashing down. Since he couldn't kill them, he decided to beat them down with a stick instead. Another man lunged at him. Suho again dodged with ease and struck back with his blood weapon. Witnessing this chaos, the last thug panicked and tried to flee, but Suho hurled his blood weapon at the man's leg, impaling it and halting his escape. Suho warned him to stay still if he didn't want a worse beating. He then considered locking all of them inside the subspace house. With the threats subdued, it was time to meet Seo Ji-won. He moved deeper into the building, finding the locked room where Seo Ji-won had been imprisoned. Entering quietly, Suho saw him lying there in a pitiful state. Seo Ji-won was asleep, his body covered in injuries, his condition visibly dire. Seo Ji-won finally awoke from his long slumber. Standing before him was a stranger, who turned out to be Suho. Startled and shaken, Gi-won instinctively recoiled at the sight of him. Suho calmly introduced himself as An Suho. Gi-won's eyes widened in disbelief as he recognized the name, the same An Suho who frequently appeared in the news. Confused and overwhelmed, he asked what Suho was doing there and inquired about the whereabouts of the four bosses who had been tormenting him. Suho silently recalled the details from the autobiography. It had stated that Gi-won had been brutally beaten and confined by those four for half a year. Looking at his condition now, it was clear that holding a conversation would be difficult. To ease his fear, Suho placed the Ring of Emotions over Ji-won's heart, using its calming energy to relax him. The effect was immediate. Ji-won began to feel at peace, surprised by the sudden emotional shift. When he asked what had just happened, Suho explained that it was due to his effect skill. Noticing how unstable Ji-won had been, he had taken action to help. Still gripped by fear, Gi-won hesitated and asked what would happen next. Was he going to be taken to prison for all that he had done? Suho questioned why he would think that. Gi-won confessed that everything he had done so far had been wrong, but Suho reassured him that he had been forced into those actions through abduction and manipulation. There was no reason for him to be punished. Gi-won quietly acknowledged that Suho was right. Suho thought to himself that he hadn't expected someone as famous as the meteor to be so kind. Then Gi-won raised a critical question. How had Suho known where to find him? After all, Suho wasn't even part of the Hero Association yet. Suho admitted that this was true. He had used his special foresight ability to locate him, an ability he had never revealed to anyone before. The reason he was disclosing it now was simple. He absolutely needed Seo Ji-won for the journey ahead. Gi-won was stunned. He couldn't believe someone like him could be of any help. But Suho explained that Gi-won was the only person in the country with a cyber-type trait, a rare ability known as digitization. Suho reflected on this incredible power. Among countless traits in the world, digitization was the only one that allowed the user's consciousness to enter the digital world. Only 2 people had ever manifested this cyber-type trait, but its true potential had remained unrecognized until one of them, calling himself Overload, took control of every network system on Earth. Arrogantly declaring himself ruler of the planet, he created global chaos. Despite the rise of the player system and massive changes in the world, society still depended on network systems. The one who sacrificed himself to stop Overload and save humanity was none other than Seo Ji-won. A year after escaping and disappearing without a trace, Ji-won gave his life in that final battle. His bravery earned him the title Meteor, and all of this was made known through the autobiography he left behind. But this time, Suho was determined to change the course of history. Overload's birth and Seo Gi-won's death would not happen. Suho needed him. The world would one day fall to the gates and the system, and Suho knew he couldn't stop that tragedy alone. He asked Gi-won to join him. Hearing this, Gi-won felt nervous and unsure. As he hesitated, a dark emotion erupted from within him. The system window responded to this, identifying it as his strongest emotion, black. The ring absorbed it. Gi-won remembered a thought from the past. If someone with the same ability used it for evil, they could endanger the entire world. He had once considered selling his soul just to escape, but now, more than anything, he wanted to help the person who had saved him. If his power had once belonged to the worst villain, he now had to stop that from ever happening again. With resolve in his voice, Gi-won agreed. He didn't know how much help he could be, but he was ready to join Suho. Suho recognized him immediately, just as the autobiography had described. Despite everything he'd endured, Seo Gi-won remained selfless at heart. Suho thanked him and suggested they eat before diving into more serious matters. Gi-won hesitated, saying he had no money. Suho handed him a pair of shoes and assured him he would cover the meal. Curious, Gi-won asked how Suho knew so much. Suho told him again. He had seen it all through his foresight. He acknowledged how much Gi-won had suffered. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Gi-won knelt before him and expressed his heartfelt thanks. The two headed to a restaurant. Gi-won ate hungrily, apologizing for devouring the food. Suho smiled and said it was good to see him eating well. He even ordered another bowl for him. Grateful and happy, Gi-won thanked him and mentioned that he had a question. Suho welcomed it, saying they were a team now and only a year apart in age. Gi-won could speak freely. In response, Gi-won said he would call Suho Hyungnim, a term they used back in the orphanage. He encouraged Suho to speak comfortably as well. Gi-won then questioned why Suho wanted to join the Hunter Association instead of starting his own guild or joining a powerful one. Wouldn't foresight be more valuable in such a setting? Suho explained that government organizations held public authority, something no guild could match. His goal wasn't just to stop the world's destruction in the future. He also wanted to minimize the damage until then. And for that, there was no better place than the association. Gi-won understood. Suho made a promise. Once he joined the Hunter Association, he would ensure that Gi-won never had to experience such trauma again. Gi-won trusted him and thanked him. Suho said it was time to settle Gi-won's past. The men who had imprisoned him were from the same orphanage. It was time to pay them a visit. Together, they went to confront those men. Gi-won beat them mercilessly and asked Suho to heal them again. Suho casually asked how many times this had happened now. Gi-won smiled and replied, it was only the 7th time. While healing them, Suho noted that the special forces would arrive soon, and they should wrap things up. Suho thought about how the autobiography mentioned Gi-won's prolonged suffering due to his unresolved past. Helping him face it directly would bring him peace. If that wasn't enough, Suho would take care of the rest. Soon, Seong-yeol arrived and asked if Suho had been struggling alone. Suho was surprised to see his senior, knowing how busy he must have been. Seong-yeol explained that it was a surprise visit. Suho was special after all. Suho quietly scoffed at the word special. Looking at the battered men lying nearby, Seong-yeol asked if these were the thieves. Suho confirmed. Seong-yeol was confused. They looked perfectly fine on the outside. Suho explained there had been some resistance during the arrest, so he had treated all of them just to be safe. Laughing, Seong-yeol called him a troublesome junior. He hadn't expected this, but appreciated Suho's bold style of work. Suho apologized, saying it was his first time handling a situation like this. But Seong-yeol wasn't scolding him. He was praising him. He pressed his foot against one of the men's heads and said that villains could be beaten as long as they didn't die. Their team would heal them anyway, and there'd be no evidence of assault. He admitted he could kill them himself, but legal rights were getting in the way. Suho acknowledged this was a method he had learned during his time with the Special Forces. Seong-yeol then pointed out that Gi-won's ability had been used for the crimes. This was his first time seeing a cyber-type trait in person. Suho questioned his senior with a tinge of frustration, unable to accept the cold dismissal of a victim's situation. He tried to plead Seo Gi-won's case, emphasizing that the man was a victim. The moment his rare personal trait, digitization, was revealed, he had been kidnapped and confined by people from the same orphanage and forced to act against his will. Suho asked for reconsideration and submitted their written confessions as evidence. Handing the documents to his senior, Suho listened as the man coldly replied, asking if this was standard operating procedure. Still, he remained skeptical and questioned whether a trait like digitization could even be used inside a gate. Hearing this, Suho realized what the senior's true goal was. Calmly, he explained that the ability was cyber-related and had no correlation with gates. It was more suited for security-related purposes, but the senior dismissed its usefulness, stating it held no value in combat or support roles, and thus, they didn't need it. Suho still urged him to ensure that Seo Gi-won wouldn't be punished. The senior smirked, teasing that Suho had grown soft while taking care of the victim. Still, he admitted that from what he had heard, Seo Gi-won seemed pitiful. He agreed not to punish him and even promised to clear his name and help him get compensation. He told Suho not to worry. Suho thanked him, but the senior brushed it off, claiming fairness was his nature. Then, with a curious glance, he asked how Suho had even found out about the case. Suho noted to himself how shameless his senior was for asking so late. Out loud, he explained that Seogi-won had posted a help request using his ability, and upon verifying it, Suho had launched a rescue operation. His senior looked doubtful and asked if that was truly how it happened. Suho internally confirmed it wasn't, but the senior continued praising him, impressed with how Suho had handled everything. He told Suho that people meant to succeed would always find a way. Suho replied modestly that it was just luck, but the senior stated that luck followed those who were prepared. He then confirmed Suho's special appointment and promised to contact him soon. Later, Shoji-won asked Suho what he should do next. Suho told him to come along. He took him to the house he was staying in. Shoji-won was amazed by the luxurious space and commented that Suho was living on a different level. But Suho clarified that it wasn't his home. It belonged to reporter Jin Hui of PBS, who was currently away on a business trip. It would just be the two of them for now. Seogi-won was surprised and asked if it was really okay to stay there. Suho assured him he had permission and mentioned that Jin Hui didn't know about his foresight ability. Seogi-won promised to keep it a secret. Now that he was part of Suho's team, he asked what his role would be. They sat on the sofa, sipping grape juice. Suho asked if Seogi-won was kidnapped right after his traits awakened, and Seogi-won confirmed it. Suho then explained their priority. Before facing the overload, they needed to focus on leveling up. Seogi-won offered to work alongside Suho to conquer gates, but Suho told him he had to level up in his own way. They would make use of digitization. Suho proposed connecting to the network together. Seogi-won asked if that was even possible. Suho pointed out that the ability's description didn't say only Seogi-won could connect. Since his ability transmitted a hunter's consciousness to the network, others could do it too. He asked Seogi-won to give it a try. As digitization activated, Shoji-won agreed to link with the network. The two entered a different space. Suho, visibly excited, marveled at experiencing ID 988 in real life. Seogi-won felt surreal to have someone beside him in the digital world. Seogi-won noticed the setting resembled a vineyard and remarked on it. Suho confirmed that's where it had been filmed. Even though the food lacked flavor, Suho still wanted to try the grapes. Curious, Seogi-won asked how they were supposed to level up here. Suho prompted him to think about what leveling up really meant. Seogi-won suggested it was about gaining a certain amount of experience. Suho affirmed that leveling up required experience and a hunter's actions served as proof. He even mentioned how he had leveled up during the hunter exam's virtual reality. Seogi-won asked if one could really level up in a virtual world. Suho clarified that unlike a fake virtual reality, this one had physical presence. In fake VR, dying had no real-world impact. But in this network world, everything was real. The environment didn't replicate human senses but had physical presence, just like when Seogi-won hacked a crypto wallet. Because of this, Suho had prepared something special for Seogi-won, a computer folder titled Free File Cleaner. But Suho explained that it was a fake name and the folder actually contained a virus, not an antivirus. These computer viruses were like monsters, hacking and destroying targets. Seogi-won would have to risk his life to fight them. They entered the room where Suho warned him again. Getting hurt here meant getting hurt in real life. He also told Seogi-won not to answer the guide's question, or else a swarm of viruses would be unleashed, similar to clicking on suspicious links. Soon, a robot appeared and asked if they wanted to use the free file cleaner. Suho commented on how plausible it sounded. Seogi-won admitted he almost answered. Suho then handed him a weapon and reminded him that, as a mage class, he'd need it for self-defense. When asked how he knew, Suho said his foresight ability told him. They readied themselves for battle. Suho would take the front as a tank while Seogi-won stayed behind and cast spells. The robot repeated its question multiple times. Suddenly, a large number of black skeletons appeared, catching Seogi-won off guard. Alarmed by the overwhelming number, he reacted with visible fear. Suho remained calm, assuring that they could still escape, but the skeletons would be trapped here. Without hesitation, he activated his blood weapon. He warned that if Seogi-won truly felt like he was going to die, he should retreat through the door they had entered from. Failure to escape would mean certain death. With that, Suho leapt into action. He charged at the skeletons, slicing through them one by one with precise strikes from his blood weapon. Each jump landed with deadly accuracy, cutting off the heads of the skeletons. As he fought, he called out to Seogi-won, urging him to stay alert and prepare his magic. Seogi-won followed the instruction, focusing and keeping his magic at the ready. After a while, Suho managed to decimate the entire swarm, leaving the ground littered with defeated skeletons. But the battle had taken a toll. Seogi-won grew weak and staggered, exhausted by the ordeal. With trembling breath, he admitted how close he felt to death. Suho checked on him and confirmed that he was still alive. He then shared that he had reached level 59. Seogi-won responded, saying he had leveled up to 55. Impressed, Suho thought to himself that this was far better than he had expected. If he could raise Seogi-won into a powerful mage, the boy would become a valuable member of the Banshee group. After the battle, Suho suggested they go home and rest. Seogwon nodded in agreement. Back at home, Suho refreshed himself and felt pleased. He now had a way to level up without entering a gate. While reading online, he saw headlines praising him for clearing the Swamp of Despair. People were calling him amazing, a god among hunters. Comments poured in saying he deserved a plaque of gratitude and even collectible figurines. Suho smiled with pride. As long as a hunter managed gates well, respect would follow. Everything was going smoothly, and it was time for the next step. He called leader Bae. The guild leader answered respectfully, asking what Suho needed. Suho brought up an S-rank gate that Nexus possessed. When Bae confirmed it, Suho declared that he would take it on. And of course, all the loot from inside would go to him. A mine owned by Nexus's S-rank dungeon landkeepers stood quietly, housing a vast deposit of magic stones. However, with the overwhelming number of landkeepers guarding it, conquering the mine was near impossible, let alone collecting any magic stones from it. Suho volunteered to take on the gate, assuring that all loot inside would be handed over. Leader Bae silently considered the situation. Although the guild owned the gate, too many deaths could shift its management to the state under the pretense of safety regulations. If Suho conquered that place, it would be a significant gain rather than a loss. Leader Bae asked Suho why he wanted to take this on so suddenly. Suho explained that he would be joining the Hunter Association sooner than expected. The contract period had turned out to be shorter than anticipated, so it was only fair. He promised to form a team to handle the landkeepers and requested that Bae organize a mining team, assuring there was no urgency. Leader Bae accepted the request, expressing mild disappointment but gratefulness that Suho was considerate enough to inform him instead of keeping it a secret until the end. Suho promised to contact him soon. The next day at the Nexus Academy Lounge in Paju, Daehan greeted Suho, referring to him as Hunter on Suho. Suho replied with a polite nod, acknowledging the passage of time. Seongyi introduced Daehan, revealing that he had passed the exam in the same class thanks to Suho's earlier advice. Daehan had wanted to meet him. Suho asked Daehan about his current activities, wondering if he had joined a team. Daehan explained that he was still in the training period and was gaining field experience by entering gates. Suho internally acknowledged that this was the usual path, joining a guild, building basic experience, getting assigned based on skills, and slowly increasing survival rates. Suho then invited Daehan to gain practical experience with him, offering him a place in the team he was forming. Daehan enthusiastically agreed, ready to begin at any time. Suho responded that they would start immediately. Meanwhile, the 4 existing team members were practicing. Despite their efforts, their performance was lacking, frustrating Yeonhwa. Suho arrived, casually noting their progress, prompting surprise from the team. He scolded them lightly, asking if they thought he was a fish and not to respond with casual surprise. One team member wondered internally if Suho had just made a joke. Suho noted the shift in their energy, observing that the vibe had changed. Yeonhwa confirmed that it had to. They had faced death hundreds of times. Naturally, the atmosphere had changed. Suho saw it in their eyes. They had grown indifferent to death and developed a killer instinct. That was a good sign. Suho introduced the 2 newcomers, Seogwon and Hunter Kang Daehan, and presented the rest of the team, Gu Yeonhwa, Kim Hyunmin, Seo Kyowon, and Guak Do-ho. He acknowledged Yeonhwa's hard work and asked if she was getting bored. She snapped that she wasn't even close to getting tired of this. She wouldn't stop until she sliced that bastard's head off. The other 4 members were also burning with rage, driven by revenge. Suho told the new recruits to observe that energy. They too would need to develop that level of killer instinct. When they asked if it was necessary, he affirmed that it was the only way to survive. Starting that day, they would train with the existing members. He instructed Yeonhwa that one of them was a mage, the other a tank. They didn't need swordsmanship, just to form squads, use clone techniques, and train well. She accepted, then asked what kind of gate they would be heading into. Suho hadn't mentioned it yet, but assured them they would go into the field soon. Yeonhwa pressed for more details, but Suho only said they'd find out. Before that, he suggested they stop referring to each other informally and settle on titles. Yeonhwa, frustrated, asked what to call him but internally swore she wouldn't call him Oppa. Suho told her to call him team leader, since they were now a team. She grudgingly agreed. Suho informed them that he had something to take care of and they were done for now. When they asked what exactly they were supposed to do, he simply said they'd find out soon enough. Just then, the same hunter they had died to countless times appeared, provoking them to come at him instead of staring blankly. Daehan was stunned. This man didn't seem like a hunter at all. His words were something else entirely. Yeonhwa coldly advised Daehan that if he didn't like what he heard, he could either kill the man or get ready to be chopped down. Later, Suho traveled by car, but the vehicle came to a halt in the middle of the road. The driver informed him it couldn't go further. Suho stepped out and surveyed the area. They had arrived at the outskirts of Paju, once called the Land of Gold. Once thriving, the area had fallen to ruin due to frequent gate occurrences and a lack of hunter personnel. What remained was a wasteland. Suho reflected that if not for the gates, Paju wouldn't have ended up this way. The gates had pushed not only Paju, but the whole world into a surge of drugs, crime, and famine. There was no way to save everyone. He had to conquer the gate as soon as possible. Yet, even a wasteland had its uses. Rejected by people, it had ironically become a haven for a certain group. As he walked, he arrived at a hidden base. Upon approaching, someone questioned his identity. Suho stated his interest in purchasing a mine. The person, skeptical at first, eventually recognized him and invited him inside. It was a special meeting. The place wasn't open yet, but Suho was receiving special treatment. The person asked if Suho had used Paju village before. Suho asked if the mimic mask the person wore was uncomfortable. Caught off guard, the person asked how Suho knew. Suho simply said he could see it and encouraged the person to relax. He was the only customer. The figure removed the mask, revealing not a man but a woman, Choi Yoon. She was amazed. Someone who had conquered 2 sealed gates was clearly on another level. Suho recognized her. One of the top gate brokers in the country, the best in Paju village, Choi Yoon. In his past life, he had bought gates through her. Back then, she wasn't well known yet. She would gain fame after joining the Union, the largest underground guild in the country. Choi Yoon asked how he knew about the place and found it curious that he used the term mine, a slang word for gates. Suho offered to explain, but suggested they focus on discussing gates. Choi Yoon asked what kind of gate he was looking for. Suho told her he was interested in the Twisted Forest gate and wanted to purchase an entry ticket, just for himself. Choi Yoon was surprised. Choi Yoon noted that the Twisted Forest had been released as a product less than 3 days ago, raising suspicion about how Suho knew about it and its price when most people weren't even aware of its existence. Suho responded coldly, stating that in the black market, it was an unspoken rule not to discuss anything beyond the transaction during gate deals. In his thoughts, Suho reflected on the 2 types of gate transactions: the trade of ownership, where the gate itself was bought and sold, and the admission ticket, which allowed single entry. Ownership was significantly more expensive, but tickets for popular gates still commanded high prices. Choi Yoon acknowledged his intent and informed him that the entry fee into the Twisted Forest was 100 million won per person. She questioned his decision to go in alone, to which Suho simply handed her the down payment, saying he would pay the rest at the gate. Seeing the money, Choi Yoon admitted she was only surprised, and that's why she had asked so many questions. She confirmed the transaction and agreed to guide him to the gate. As they left by car, Suho noticed the association's mark, which suggested recent involvement. He felt relieved, knowing that the association's presence would help avoid unnecessary conflicts. Choi Yoon asked if he wasn't surprised she had come up north. Suho calmly replied that he wasn't. In his thoughts, he considered the current state of North Korea, a collapsed region plunged into anarchy due to the gates. China had kept its forces along the border, reluctant to cross, while South Koreans like him moved in and out with ease. Choi Yoon remarked on his stoicism, noting that the articles she had read painted a different picture. Suho replied that he must have left a good impression. Soon they arrived at the entry point of the Twisted Forest to request permission. Outside the gate, several men stood guard, menacing in appearance. Choi Yoon informed them she had brought a guest who would be entering the Twisted Forest. The payment had been verified, and she had received the down payment. The guards chuckled upon hearing this, surprised to find it was truly An Suho. Suho warned them to show respect and demanded to see the boss. The leader of the group stepped out, expressing his honor at meeting Hunter An Suho in person. Suho instantly recognized him. Bang Duyok, infamously known as the Woodsman, a leader of a human trafficking ring. Suho recalled how traffickers referred to kidnapped individuals as logs, and this man literally sold people like merchandise. Though he had eventually been arrested by the Special Force Hunter Association and sentenced to prison, it shocked Suho to see him here, not only a member of the association but also owning a gate. This detail hadn't appeared even in the Library of Memories. Choi Yoon asked if they could proceed immediately. The boss agreed, but hinted that Suho's presence presented a financial dilemma. Normally, they sold tickets under the assumption challengers wouldn't actually clear the gate. But with someone like Suho, known for solo conquering 2 sealed gates, the balance shifted. It didn't add up financially anymore. Suho mentally noted the man's shrewdness. No surprise coming from someone who once sold humans for a living. Choi Yoon called out the boss's veiled attempt to raise the price on the spot, warning him not to play games. The boss quickly backtracked, claiming it was just a joke. Suho watched her handle the negotiation smoothly, noting she was acting like a seasoned broker. Even someone like Bang Dua couldn't act recklessly around her, a member of the Clation. It seemed Suho didn't need to intervene just yet. The boss laughed nervously and told them to follow him. Choi Yoon assured Suho they would proceed with the entry immediately. She would remain with him throughout for safety, so there was no need to worry. Suho acknowledged that some individuals ambushed gate buyers after they cleared a gate and returned. To prevent such incidents, gate brokers needed enough strength to guarantee both safety and fair transactions, which is why there were so few of them. He followed her as they made their way inside. The boss remarked on Suho's confidence, questioning what kind of courage it took to enter alone. Then again, he added, this was Hunter An Suho. Suho replied with his own curiosity, wondering whether he could truly clear this place. Crossing the gate, Suho stepped into the Twisted Forest. He had never expected to see it in his lifetime. In his past life, he had never entered this place, but someone else had gained fame due to a rare item found here. Determined, he set off to find that item. He drew his weapon and activated mana detection. Immediately, he sensed monsters in the forest all above level 90. Wielding his blade, he began cutting them down. He thought an axe would be better suited for chopping tree-like creatures, but he had to manage with his weapon. As the monster launched an attack, he summoned his sword, remembering the rumors that the true ruler of this forest was of a far higher level than these Ents. This was the same as with the nameless sword. He needed to grow stronger here, relying solely on swordsmanship. Activating decapitation, he sliced the monsters. It didn't fall in a single blow, likely due to the 30-level gap. Still, he resolved not to use holy power anymore. From now on, he would rely solely on swordsmanship, without any support abilities. More tree monsters rushed toward him. Each one took considerable effort to bring down, yet Suho found it rewarding. He could feel himself improving with each strike. Fortunately, there were plenty of these monsters. Perfect practice dummies for his training. He cleaved through them relentlessly, declaring he would turn every last one of them into firewood. After slaying a significant number, he paused to check his status. A notification appeared. Congratulations. His skill healing light had reached the highest grade. The new skill consumed mana to rapidly heal a designated area with slight regenerative power. Suho acknowledged the skill upgrade. Until level 40, job skills were received one by one. At level 50, all previous job skills were promoted to grade A. From level 60 onward, those skills began upgrading in order again. And at level 100, a class-specific turning point awaited. For now, he had cleared out the small fry. The real challenge, the ruler of the Twisted Forest, would be appearing soon. The scene shifted toward the towering being, the ruler of the forest, whose level stood at 100. Malayon finally arrived before Suho, who watched silently, thinking to himself, finally, he's here. But his excitement faded as he recognized the energy. It's a 1-star. There were many ways to classify monsters, but typically anything below level 99 was considered starless. From level 100 onward, they were ranked 1-star, 2-star, and so on in units of 100. For Suho, Malayon was the first 1-star monster he had encountered in this life. Malayon remarked on the presence of an uninvited guest, to which Suho calmly responded in his mind. They had never invited him either. Malayon seemed confused, but Suho made it clear that summoning a portal on someone else's land without permission didn't make them the intruders. Suho, dismissing Malayon's world, scoffed at their ignorance, calling them mere creations of the system. Without warning, Suho summoned a weapon through shadow magic and hurled it at Malayon. However, Malayon easily caught the weapon and asked him if it's holy power. He questioned if Suho was a servant of God. Suho confirmed, admitting he had high expectations from a 1-star monster, but was disappointed. Malayon was weaker than expected. With another attack, Suho launched a bloody ball behind the previous weapon, using its momentum to push the blade forward. The strike landed squarely on Malayon's chest. Malayon smirked darkly, filled with rising anger. The forest itself trembled under his fury. A terrifying killing aura surged from Malayon, threatening to consume Suho. Yet Suho remained calm, noting the intensity of the 1-star's aura, but it wasn't enough to break him. His dragon blood activated. Thanks to his dragon armor's dragonkind effect, he resisted the pressure effortlessly. Inwardly, Suho acknowledged the gap in power. Malayon was just a deer before a dragon. Malayon, confused by Suho's strength, wondered what kind of sorcerer he was. Suho corrected him. It wasn't sorcery. It was the rightful reward of hardcore effort. Malayon acknowledged Suho's tricks, but Suho wasn't finished. He warned there was more and prepared another shadow summon. The Shadow Bind activated, followed by Shadow Beeld. Malayon, unfazed, mocked Suho's shallow tricks. Raising his hand, he summoned massive, powerful plants using water magic. With a chilling smirk, he demonstrated what real tricks looked like, declaring the difference between their techniques. Suho smirked back, ready to face the challenge. He activated decapitation and began cutting down each monstrous plant, though it wasn't easy. The plants were strong, but Suho continued slashing through them with relentless focus. Malayon mocked his swordsmanship as pathetic. Suho chuckled, knowing it wouldn't be for long. He whispered to himself, waiting just a bit more. He needed only a little longer. Then everything would fall into place. Malayon grew wary. Suho had created a sword that didn't cut and wasn't using the holy power from earlier. Something was happening. Suho was clearly aiming for something, but Malayon couldn't figure it out. Whatever it was, he thought, it would be futile. Suho, however, cut through all the plant monsters. Malayon grew angrier. With a shout, he threw a stronger plant-like creature at Suho. Suho slashed through it in one strike. Watching in disbelief, Malayon questioned how a human could cut through such ancient roots. Perhaps it was accumulated damage, but even then, how could a human do that? Malayon unleashed more plant attacks, but Suho cut through them again. Suho felt it. The bite was finally coming. The reason he had only used decapitation repeatedly was to prove his mastery to the system. When the system deemed the skill proficiency high enough, it would acknowledge the user's understanding and enhance the skill's power. A system message appeared. Suho's understanding of swordsmanship now exceeded anyone else's. The system had fully acknowledged his skill. Decapitation was promoted to a higher grade. It reached the highest level and was now qualified to evolve into a new skill. The system announced decapitation had been upgraded to S rank. The technique could now slice through steel with ease. The will of the nameless sword within the Guardian Sword resonated with Suho's evolution. Sword comprehension activated. The sword's will recognized his growth and granted its blessing. That will was now imbued into the Guardian Sword. The system updated the information for the Guardian Sword and decapitation. A final message appeared. Congratulations, Suho had become the successor of the swordsmanship style known as Void Style. Seeing it, Suho knew. It was done. Malayan, now desperate, created a terrifying new weapon and hurled it at Suho. But Suho sliced it effortlessly. Shocked, Malayan asked once more, "What kind of sorcery was this?" Suho repeated calmly. It wasn't sorcery. It was the result of pure relentless effort. Things were about to get fun. He told Malayan to look forward to it. Suho reflected in silence, remembering the moment he first created the Guardian Sword. Back then, he believed he had reached the peak of swordsmanship, but that belief was soon shattered. He realized the Guardian Sword was just one among countless techniques forged by humans. The world was far bigger than he imagined. Beings like the Nameless Sword existed, beings that human swordsmanship alone couldn't defeat. Upon discovering the Nameless Sword, the first non-human technique he learned was Void Style, first form, cutting steel in a single strike. In this life, he had mastered it even faster. The system window appeared before him, acknowledging his achievement. He was rewarded with 10 bonus stat points. Enraged, Malayan shouted his vow to crush the cursed sorcery and attacked Suho with an even more powerful weapon. But once again, Suho activated cutting steel and destroyed all of Malayan's weapons. He taunted the enemy, mocking how slow he was at understanding. Shocked, Malayan stumbled, unable to comprehend what had happened. Suho questioned if he could cut what had already been sliced and mocked his opponent's useless eyes. He warned that it wouldn't be long before he brought him down completely. Malayan, still defiant, claimed Suho shouldn't be arrogant just for defeating the headburst. He summoned 3 twisted golems from the heart of the cursed forest, with levels of 96, 97, and 98. Suho stared at them, his voice dripping with disdain. It had to be a cursed druid behind this, and the creatures reflected the twisted state of their master. Malayan smirked, thinking Suho wouldn't be able to defeat them. He ordered the golems to kill him. As the monstrous golems charged at Suho, he once again activated cutting steel and cleanly sliced through all 3, killing them instantly. The system confirmed their deaths, each slain by Suho. Malayan was struck with disbelief, unable to process what he was seeing. Suho smirked and reminded him, if he could cut steel, why would mere rock creatures be a challenge? He asked if this was all Malayan had to offer. In a final desperate attack, Malayan unleashed more of his weapons. But Suho cut every one of them within seconds and tossed the broken remnants into water. Malayan, overwhelmed, muttered in disbelief. None of it made sense anymore. Suho laughed and pointed out that it looked like Malayan had exhausted all his trump cards. Without delay, Suho rushed at him, declaring the fight's end. His blade struck, and Malayan crashed to the ground. With a swift movement, Suho summoned shadows and used chains to restrain him. Then, without hesitation, he beheaded him. The system declared it clearly. Malayan, ruler of the Twisted Forest, had been killed. The gate had been conquered. Suho was named the MVP. Additional system rewards followed. Suho received 1 bonus stat point and a full level up. All stats increased by 1, and another bonus stat was granted for being MVP. Suho acknowledged that he had fulfilled his purpose for coming. From Malayan's severed body, he pulled out the Druid's Orb. The system identified it as the Cursed Druid's Orb of Dominion, an item embodying the unique power of Malayan, a druid cursed by the gods for being different. Unlike other druids who channeled harmony, Malayan's power represented dominion. His corrupted power tainted even pure minds, preventing him from ever walking the path of a normal druid. Cast out from the forest he once called home, he used his dominion to control even the mad. Thus, he became the sole guardian of the Twisted Forest. Void Style was powerful, but this orb had been Suho's true goal. He had needed it to progress further. Now that he had it, it was time to leave. Outside the Twisted Forest, Choyun and her team watched as the gate disappeared. It had been conquered. Shock rippled through the group as they processed the fact that Suho had actually done it. It was hard to believe. Elsewhere, the gate's original owner boiled with rage. The Twisted Forest had been classified as an S-class danger zone, one of the hardest to clear. Its strict limit on entries made it practically impossible. He had planned to milk it for entrance fees indefinitely. Acquiring ownership hadn't been easy either. It had cost him dearly. Now someone had conquered it solo the moment it opened. The idea was maddening. He cursed, frustrated at the loss. He had invested so much, and now Suho wanted to pay him just 100 million and walk away. He couldn't accept it. He commanded his men to prepare to ruin Suho. Choyun, alarmed, questioned if he was really going through with it and whether he could face the consequences. But the man yelled back that he didn't care. If she wanted to call the association, she should go ahead. Suddenly, blood spilled from his chest. The truth revealed itself. Suho had pierced him with his sword from behind. Calmly facing the others, Suho asked if they still wanted to continue. One man immediately stepped back, assuring him they wouldn't interfere. Suho placed his sword against the man's neck and demanded compensation. They had broken the rules and expected to walk away without a penalty. That wasn't going to happen. The man, trembling, agreed to pay. Once the payment was settled, Suho and Choi Yoon walked away from the scene. Choi Yoon thanked him. Suho casually reminded her that he didn't accept empty gratitude. She would need to repay him someday. She noted how sharp he was, to which he replied that it made sense, since he wielded a sword. He then asked for her private number, saying he would stay in touch. She wondered if she could contact him first as well. Suho replied that if he found a decent gate, they'd meet again. Later, Suho returned home after getting out of the car. Meanwhile, Choi Yoon reflected on what had happened. Suho was a better person than she had expected. A few days later, at 9 a.m. at Nexus Academy, Suho's team gathered. One member asked him what exactly they were supposed to do. Suho answered that he'd explain everything once they arrived. They couldn't keep the boss waiting. Their destination, the miner's quarry,